Hi, before we get started with the episode, we just wanted to point you in the direction of the social accounts we've set up for the show to help you guys engage with us and communicate and get involved with our show.
You can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com.
Emailing us will really be the best way to talk to us directly and conversate with us on air during the show.
Also, be sure to like You Can't Disappoint a Podcast on Facebook.
And you can also follow us on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast and Twitter at You Can't Disapod. That's disapod like disappoint. So there's one S and two P's. Well, thanks for tuning in, and let's kick off the episode.
Here we go.
Shirley, I'm so sorry.
I'm going home, Rita.
I know, Shirley, I know.
No, seriously, I'm going home. Can you help me out?
Oh, yeah, sure.
What it is, Soul Brothers. Welcome to You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. We're back. Another week, a big episode to discuss this week with you guys. Hi, I'm your host. I'm your host, Post-Ironic Disco Stew.
Hey, Zach, it's Steve. I mean, no, wait, hold on. Let me try again.
We both
hey,
screwed up.
Hey, everybody, it's Steve. Hold on, one more time.
Okay.
Hey, buddy. Beep.
All right.
If you're satisfied with your message.
Let's just go ahead and start this whole thing over. What it is, Soul Brothers. Welcome to you. It's good to be here. I'm glad you joined us. I'm glad you made it. I hope everyone had a safe, pandemic-friendly Halloween week. I don't even know what that's gonna look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hopefully everyone trick-or-treated all as the 2319 team from Monsters, Inc. I know that's the only government CDC-approved costume this year.
Yes. A lot of people have been talking about how Among Us costumes would be good because you're in like a hazmat suit of sorts. But anyway, I hope your Halloween was swell if you did anything. And if not, I hope our Halloween special from last week with Mr. Kevin Lanigan did some good spooky stuff for you.
Yeah, hope you were absolutely terrified.
I know I was. All right, this week we are here to talk about. Well, first let's talk about you, Steven. How are you? What have you been doing?
I actually just last night wrapped up probably one of the best shows I've watched this year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Great Pretender. It's a Netflix original anime.
Okay.
But it's
I haven't even heard of it.
Like, it's really good. It's only 14 episodes right now. The next part comes out this month, November, actually. But it's about like con artists, and it's like really good. Normally, like those shows, like I can see what's happening a couple steps ahead of like the characters. Not in this one. They were like at least one step ahead of me for most of the show, which is tough to do on a show like that. So easy 10 out of 10 for me, which I don't say lightly about anime. So
10 out of 10, yeah. 10 out of 10 is like, I don't know. I very rarely hand out 10s or 5s if we're talking stars. It has to be something substantial that like life-changing to get a score like that. And I know that you're probably similar. So I'm glad to hear that.
Especially like for the first season of a show, I almost never will give it a 10, but this one.
What would you give the first season of our show? You know, we're reaching the end of it.
I'd give us a solid 7 to 8. You know, because especially now, I think we're
getting there. I think we've gotten a little bit better. If your mom's reviews are any indication.
Yeah, because she would have given us a hard 4 for like weeks.
Well earned. I think 4 is being a little bit nice those first couple weeks.
Probably.
But I'm glad that everyone's here that's joined us along this journey as we've, totally learned how to podcast through talking through this first season of Community together. Now that we're in November, it's a big month for us. This month, we'll be wrapping up our coverage of Season 1. Today is the first of the last 3 episodes. And we will be doing some retrospective Season 1 stuff, and we'll be beginning our dive into Season 2, which is exciting. Season 2 is like what this episode we're here to talk about today kicks off. Just the true golden era of this great show.
Agreed. Season 2 is really, really good.
That being said, we're here to talk about an episode that without it, we might not have ever had a season 2. We're talking about episode 23 of the first season.
The Art of Discourse. Zach, it was really great going through this one again.
It was good enough to do 2 full podcasts on, you're correct. We're talking the phenomenal Community, like, if there was a Community Mount Rushmore of episodes, this one would have to be on it. Modern Warfare. It was directed by Justin Lin of Fast and the Furious fame. This is his last director credit for Community, but he also did earlier this season Introduction to Statistics and Interpretive Dance, which were 2 standouts of the season for sure, especially from a directorial standpoint, and this one is no different. He really shined, and his action movie prowess totally shows everywhere in this episode. It was written by Emily Cutler, who co-wrote Contemporary American Poultry, and next season she writes Accounting for Lawyers, Asian Population Studies, and Competitive Wine Tasting, and it originally aired on May 6th, 2010.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Big fan of Justin Lin, not only the Fast and Furious movies, which I know I will make fun of probably just as much, if not more than anyone else, but I do love them. But especially, I mean, not to give away too much about my rankings this season, but some of his episodes are going to end up pretty
high
darn
up there.
high. Yeah.
That's fair. I have never seen a Fast and Furious film all the way through.
That's okay.
I think I tried to watch the first one, and I've heard that, like they get better as they go on, and that the first couple are not the shining examples. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not interested enough to watch through the bad ones to get to the kind of good ones.
No, watch Tokyo Drift because it's different.
Okay.
And then watch, like, Fast 5.
I'm going to be honest with you, I probably won't do that.
That's okay.
Because...
As well, your life will not be any worse for not watching it, but it might just get a little bit better if you do.
Because we're about to, dive into our coverage of this episode, which has so many homage moments to all kinds of action movies. And I've seen almost none of the movies that are referenced in this episode, which we'll talk about as we go through this episode. So I think I already have a long list of that type of movie that I should watch before I get to the Fast and Furious franchise.
See, I was lucky enough that my mom's favorite genre of movie was action movie. So I watched a lot of I was exposed to a lot of these when I was younger.
Right. See, my parents are old, so it was just go in the other room. Before we get into our coverage, this week for trivia, we're doing things a little bit different. We've got a previously recorded trivia segment, and instead of explaining to you why we've done that, I figure we should just kick it off. So, Steven, why don't you press the comically large red play button in front of you to kick off our trivia adventure this week?
All right, everyone. Without further ado, I present our interview with the one, the only, Michael Jordan.
I'm sorry, guys. All right, Steven, since this is such a special episode of the show and such a big, momentous occasion for our podcast, we're going to do something special for trivia this week. What are we doing, buddy?
Well, I'm very excited. We have a very special guest who's going to host our trivia with us, and hopefully maybe we won't seem as uneducated about the show community as we normally do.
I doubt it.
But yeah, I want to go ahead and welcome the man, the myth, the legend, 6-time NBA champion, multi-time Grammy winner, MJ, to the show. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
I feel like we've known him for months now, even though this is the first time we're actually meeting, and I'm sure our listeners feel the same way. We've been hearing his trivia for weeks. He does a way better job at it than we ever do, so we're glad to have him here to do it in person for such a special episode.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you could do this.
Thank you. I've always hated hearing the sound of my own voice, so this is very surreal for me, but it's always nice to try new things. So, yeah.
I totally feel the same way whenever I edit our episodes and have to listen to myself say the same things over and over again. It drives me insane. It's terrible.
Yeah, I hate hearing Zach so much that I actually do my own kind of muting when I listen to the show. I just listen to myself. It's great.
Okay, so Let's do this. Steven, how many questions do you have? I went a little bit above and beyond this time.
I did too. I have an entire 4 questions for the first time in like 3 months.
Damn.
Okay, well, I've got 8.
Oh shit.
Oh
How many
no.
of you got for us, MJ?
I actually got 12 because I'm pretty sure that we're gonna be overlapping a lot this week. So it's good
Okay,
that
that
I
could be
bought
true.
extra.
Okay, so
I like it.
We'll go. How about MJ? You take the first one, then I'll go, and then we'll bring in Stevens as well. So go ahead and give us your first one.
Oh, okay. So the first question. According to Brita, what do raisins bring in a chocolate chip cookie? Like, this is the very first conversation
Oh.
in the episode.
This is one of my trivia questions as well. So she says that that raisins do belong in chocolate chip cookies, and Jeff says they don't. Was there something more to your question? Was it why does she say they belong?
Yes, she said something specific. Like, it
She
brings-
like trails off kind of.
I don't know, because I was just
Yeah.
so like staunch that they do not that I like
I
was immediately on board.
I hate raisins. I'm a very
Raisins are bad.
food open person, but raisins are one of the few things that make me gag.
Oh no.
So I don't know the exact reason. What was the exact reason?
I actually agree with Brita in this. It gives the cookies depth. Depth.
Wow.
Yep.
You
And I
know,
totally agree. Just saying.
I'm not a raisin man. But to each their own. I feel like you should just eat regular grapes like a normal human being. But whatever you want to do, I don't judge.
I'm gonna put
Actually,
some regular grapes in a cookie, and it's gonna be delicious.
yeah, chocolate chip and raisin together, that doesn't sound good. But I'm okay with like raisins in general. And
Like an oatmeal raisin?
Yes, I love oatmeal raisin.
Well, then I only
I
have
can-
7 questions. What were you going to say, Steven?
I said I can be like tricked into eating an oatmeal raisin cookie if I like really don't look and I eat it really fast and like Cookie Monster, but otherwise I try to avoid them.
Just the shove entire cookie into face and it all
Yeah.
crumbles around. Yeah, okay. So I only have 7 questions. I'll go ahead and throw one of them at you guys. When Jeff first finds out about the prize, what does Troy call him?
Oh, is it you son of a bitch? I don't know. That's what
It's
I remember.
After that, he does say, "You son of a bitch," Jeff Winger. But right after he finds out what the prize is, if no one has it, I'll go ahead and say it.
What is it?
Oh, no.
He calls him Sugar Bear.
Oh yeah,
Sugar Bear! Damn it! I knew that one.
It rhymed.
Well,
forgot.
obviously you didn't.
I didn't. Not in the context.
All right, Steven, lay one on us, big boy.
Okay, here we go. With the first of my hefty 4. Just gonna slam it down here.
Whip that 4 right out on the table.
Yeah. Who was the first group to form a pack, and how did they fall?
Oh.
Oh, I know this. It's the debate
Okay, go for it.
team. It's in the debate. team.
Yes, yes.
And they fell for infighting.
Absolutely.
That's-
Yeah, that's a really funny
Okay.
joke. Yeah, of course they
Bingo.
would. Cool. MJ,
Okay.
up to the plate.
My second question. What was the central
Okay.
event occurring at Greendale before it devolved into chaos during the campus-wide game of Paintball Assassin? What was the
Okay,
central
it was
event?
like a
The spring fling.
spring fling,
Correct.
yeah. With the
Correct.
there was a
The weekly
a blast.
campus-wide event that somehow they couldn't afford for the $78 sign that got destroyed a couple episodes ago, but they can have these huge events with games and kissing booths and every week.
yeah. There were so many stands set up
That's
outside.
exactly
that were
why
destroyed.
Yeah.
the dean can't afford it, because
Because he's spending all of their money
Yes,
on
he's
that. You're
spending-
so right.
exactly. And
Okay,
I
okay.
just want to say that I love the what do you call it, the production team, because when they always
Absolutely.
held events like this, they go out of their way to make the set seem like it really was in the middle of a spring fling. I
Yeah,
love
they really
that.
do a great job.
Mm-hmm. The scene where
There's so many like little details.
where Jeff found out the carnage, when he first found out the
Mhm.
carnage. I love that scene because it was, you can just tell that something happened. There was a spring fling that happened there, and it just got wrecked by the paintball game. So props to the team for.
The production in this whole episode is great. The way that
So good.
yeah, not only do they have to destroy the set with paintballs that they've added in the party that's been destroyed with paintballs, and they had to I don't know, consciously decide how torn apart it was gonna look. Yeah, they did a good
Yeah.
job. Okay, Troy is not an ambassador. He's a
He is a warrior.
no, incorrect.
No, it's a gladiator. He's a
Gladiator,
Yeah, he's a
damn it.
gladiator. Yeah.
So close. Oh
I know, I
well.
really should have
Not
watched
really.
this one.
And you
Steven?
watched it too before
Okay.
this, right?
I watched
Right.
it just before this. I watched it once last night as well.
Yeah, I watched it last
Oh,
night.
okay.
Here we go. Here's mine. What does Shirley claim she will do if she wins?
She's gonna take just morning classes so she can spend more time with the boys.
With the boys.
Right, on
Bingo.
point.
Ring a ding ding.
Maybe she has more time to spend with them. They'll actually start aging and growing up and not being toddlers every time we see them. Not toddlers, but they're always the same exact age whenever we see them.
It's true.
All right, MJ, what you got?
Okay, third question. How long was Jeff asleep in his car before he discovered the aftermath of the paintball game?
Something like just short of an hour, because an hour passes in between when we see him and when we see him asleep in his car. So maybe an hour minus like the 5-10 minutes it took to get to his car and fall asleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really got exact there. 1 hour is good.
I had to prepare.
I
You never take it easy on us. I had to like pay
I know.
close
That's
You
attention.
had
fair.
to come ready. I was like watching like all these like little details. I was just like, okay.
And this is one of those episodes where there's stuff everywhere. I mean, every
There's
episode
so
is,
much
but
little
especially
stuff.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Contemporary American Poultry was the same way, where there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
So that would be me. What is the Glee Club's uninspired song choice?
Oh,
hit me with your
crap.
best shot.
That shot.
There we go.
Yes.
That was it. And it was very uninspired. It was a very sad, wimpy arrangement.
It truly was.
But it worked. It did what
Yeah,
it had
it
to do.
Well, I wondered. It almost sounded like the female voice that was singing was Allison Breeze. I wonder if they just gathered like a few of the cast members who could sing and had them
Same.
record this background noise.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know for
weird.
sure that it was her, but it sounded like her.
Yeah, I heard that there was definitely a female voice in there, but I'm pretty sure the people in the trees were all guys, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
So.
Yeah.
So
All right,
Gosh,
Steven.
community, step up.
okay.
All right,
Steven.
here we go. This is a two-parter, I suppose.
Okay.
Being that there are two answers necessary to get full points. But what
Since
color?
when do we take track of points? When
I've
have
been
there
keeping
points?
track this whole time, Zach.
Okay.
And
And you're losing?
You wish. What color are Chang's paintball guns?
Oh man, I was thinking about asking some of these questions, but I didn't. Well, first in the end, he's got like the real heavy. It's like orange tiger stripe kind of his LT gray.
Yes.
Does he have more traditional paintball guns at first?
No, he
Yes,
has
he has-
after the tiger.
Is it gold? Are they gold?
Yes, those. Yes,
Yeah,
they're
he's got
gold.
the
The
dual
double
wield.
guns that he pulled out.
So is that it? Did I
That
get
is
full
it.
points?
You did get
Hell
full
yeah,
points.
okay.
Full marks, Zach.
Okay.
Full marks for you.
Okay.
Top.
So is it me now?
All right, MJ.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Okay,
Brr.
Okay, Shirley quoted which iconic opening verse of a chapter in the Book of Psalms during the encounter with the disco roller skaters?
I know exactly what it is. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want.
Yep.
I feel like it's a little bit of a Pulp Fiction reference as well. Isn't that one of the things that,
That is
Samuel
Pulp
L. Jackson
Fiction.
says?
I think it was. Yeah, it was also I think a reference to Saving Private Ryan. I think.
I haven't seen Saving Private Ryan.
Ooh, Saving Private Ryan is good.
Yep. Like if you want
I'll
to
have to
have
do
a
the
good
homework,
cry,
yeah.
if you want to have a good
Yeah,
cry,
it's a
you
good
can
movie.
watch that.
I am totally a crier. It does not take much for stuff to make me cry, especially movies.
Yeah.
Okay. When we first see Chang's suicide bomber paint setup, what number does it read?
5.
Yep.
Yeah,
$5
$5 foot long.
Which, by
Steven?
the way, what a nice like elaborate like
Yeah.
thing that he to like walk into that room with.
Yeah, he was just prepared with that because
Yeah,
he came
he-
to the dean and was like, "I can make this thing end."
did say
Steven,
he
have you
was
gone
shut
through
down.
all of your questions, or do you have more?
I have una mas.
Okay, should we save it, or do you want to go ahead and do it?
I'll do it because someone's
Okay.
probably gonna ask it, and then I'll just
Not
try
have
and
any.
answer
Okay,
those. Yeah.
okay.
What classes does Chang enroll in at Greendale?
Oh no, this is one of my questions.
He mentioned being interested in watercolors. I don't think that was one of the classes, though.
It was not
No,
one of the
no.
ones.
So since MJ knows, I'll let you answer.
It was critical media literacy and politics of gender. Biatch.
Right, I knew
Absolutely.
gender was one of them. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, so then go ahead and throw one of your other questions at us.
Well, you already answered one of them. What form of art does the dean do in his spare time? Which would be?
Oh, watercolor.
watercolors.
Okay, so there we go. What does Shirley have to say? Oh, wait. What does Shirley have to say? She asked to justify... Well, I wrote this question weird. What does Shirley have to say to justify her priority registration, and what does she have to do to keep up the charade? So when she gets the prize in the end...
She has to say that she has gout and she has to walk around with a limp.
Yes. Good job.
Yes. Exactly. I thought about asking that, but I'm pretty sure someone else will. So.
And we still
And
have
I was
questions that were written into us after this. I don't know how
Yeah,
many
we
of these
do.
are going to be repeat or not.
So, wait, Stephen is finished, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just you
Okay.
and me now.
Okay, remember that scene where there were two paint pellets that collided in midair and took out Chang and Britta? What were the colors of those two pellets?
Were they green and red? Or green and pink?
Close. I think it was green and orange. It was green and orange. And
Yeah, I
nice.
couldn't quite tell with that reddish.
I had
orange
nothing
thing
there,
was.
so I'm glad you jumped in on that one. I've got two more. Here's the first of my last two. Things feel different to Abed in the study room after the game. What does Pierce think the reason why is?
Is this the
That
one
would
about
be
the
his,
man song? The man song?
Yes.
Yeah, his new man thong.
He's
that
sporting a
is
man
riding up a
thong, and
little.
it's starting to ride up. Yeah.
I've never worn a man thong.
I don't believe that for a second.
Listen, I just don't know that it's for me. Maybe if I ever become a professional baseball player.
I have thousands of pictures to prove otherwise.
Well, of course, Zach, but those are in regular thongs.
But
not man
I edited
thongs.
the man thong onto you, so maybe. All right.
I'm learning
Before
so
this gets
much.
any weirder.
I'm learning so much. Okay, let's see, what do I have here? Okay, I remember one of you mentioning this, so I made it into a question. Name at least 2 Dalmatian-related items visible in the dean's office in this episode.
He had a 3-ring binder that was just like Dalmatian print. I noticed that one this time. There's a ton of
then
stuff.
Chang was like holding a little. Was it a Dalmatian like doll or like figure
Yep.
when he's talking to the dean about
Oh,
joining
yeah.
the fight?
Yep, that's a stuffed animal. And there was a Dalmatian mug as well. And there was a Dalmatian picture frame. That's what I can spot. So, good job.
Nice. I know there was some
Good job,
stuff when like
guys.
Jeff was like shooting the office.
Yeah.
That's one of my
there
favorite
was-
running jokes that they just go farther with every time.
Yep. Okay, so do you
All right,
have
so
any
I
more?
have one more. I have one more, and then I'll let you take the lead with whatever you have left. This is an easy one. You guys are going to know this. Where will Abed meet Troy, and how long from now will they meet?
Oh no, that's my last question. Okay,
I
I knew it. Okay, so it's the flagpole, right? In 10 minutes. Yep.
I'll never not laugh at Jeff getting pissed and like taking the phone and leaving an angry message, and then like second guessing his message and
did I sound like a jerk?
hey Abed, Troy will meet you in 10 minutes. Bye.
I wonder how
Alright,
many
MJ.
takes did they take for that particular scene.
Yeah, I think
feel-
it's really funny.
Yep, especially with Troy.
It's relatable too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how many do you have left? Do you still have a couple for us?
Okay, I can give you one more.
Okay.
Why can't Dean Pelton award priority registration to the winner of the paintball match?
Oh,
It
there's
is
like an act or a law
like a
that's
discrimination.
Yeah.
There or like a student equality act or something
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's right.
But this
Boom.
this is the same dean that just messaged the black people that a concert was changing times. So
And it's the
I don't
same
know.
dean that ranked the student body based on how attractive they are. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Top
why don't
notch.
we segue into what the people have prepared for us?
All right, I got a couple emails this week to read with some trivia questions. And at least on first glance, I think we actually did not take all the questions, which is good.
nice.
Our first one is from our community daddy himself. Says, Community Daddy here. Not so much trivia, but I look forward to a reaction to the episodes. But here's the Modern Warfare trivia.
Papa
It
bless.
says, can you name 4 movies, excluding sequels, referenced by word, scene, or deed by the episode? So
Well,
the first
we've
one,
kind of discussed a couple because Shirley's
Talk
Bible
about Pulp
verse could be
Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, could be Saving Private Ryan. The other one that comes
Terminator,
immediately to mind
definitely.
is that Come With Me If You Don't Want to Get Paint on Your Clothes. I wasn't
Yeah.
exactly sure what movie that was from, but that came to mind.
the whole opening scene is very Terminator, like where
Yep.
Abed comes in and saves them. And
I feel
That
like
was a
Jeff being
Terminator
all
line.
dirty and a wife beater has some Die Hard elements to
oh,
it.
very Die Hard when he comes in at the end, for sure.
What do you think, MJ? Are there any that we're missing that you have
I'm
in your
pretty sure
database?
I'm pretty sure the moment where Jeff killed, quote unquote, the dean is lifted from Die Hard. I'm pretty sure about that.
Okay.
The the filming techniques are obviously from The Matrix.
Mhm.
There was a scene where Abed did this little run where he
The wall
bounced up
run.
against a wall. That I think that was in The Matrix too. And
Yeah.
What
What
were
else?
Abed's like goggles from? What would the way Abed dressed, was that from something in particular?
It was like very Matrixy,
Was
but
that
also
Matrix?
a little bit. It made me think Mad Max, but I think that's more Matrix.
I actually
Oh,
think
the scene when they're like around the fire talking about like how things used to be and how they're talking like that. That felt very post-apocalyptic, Mad Max, like discussing the before
Yeah.
times.
There was also a pretty hard Scarface reference with Chang. There, he was wearing even down
Oh,
to
yeah,
the
for
salmon
sure.
suit. Yeah.
and
Anything else we want to touch on?
yeah, I think the Predator is heavily referenced here.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
Predator too.
Like there was one scene in particular that I'm thinking of. The "you son of a bitch" line was from Predator, I think.
Yeah, you son of a bitch, Jeff Winger. The way Donald delivered that was really
That was
funny.
so good.
That was a good one. All right, what else?
And that was our only question from communities. There
Thanks,
were
Papa.
answers. He actually gave some answers. So the ones that he had here were 28 Days Later, Die Hard.
Okay, 28
The
days
Warriors,
later, totally that opening thing with
Yeah.
Jeff falling asleep and like waking up
Waking Up.
when everything had started. Okay.
Also, The Warriors, which I have not seen Warriors. I've played the game, but I have not seen the movie. And There's Something About Mary, which I don't know what the There's Something About Mary reference was.
Cameron,
no
the Cameron
idea where
Diaz
that-
movie?
Yeah.
no idea
Something in
where
Britta's
that-
hair is Something About Mary.
Huh. That's really specific.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thanks,
Yeah,
Daddy.
it said the opening shot was 28 Days Later, Die Hard is Barefoot Jeff, and the taped gun to the back, definitely. And then Come Out and Play is from The Warriors.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Papa.
Nice.
Thanks for
Thank
birthing us.
you. Yeah, I always appreciate it. All right, and the next one is from Danny. She says, "Hola, I am so excited. I absolutely love this episode. I also want to thank you guys because I've loved Community since it first aired, and I love it more every time I rewatched it, but your podcast has made me pay closer attention to every detail of this super genius show, and it's great hearing your perspective. Plus, y'all make me laugh so much. Funniest scene to me was Chang in the study room with Jeff and Britta. Everything about it is hilarious and incredibly well done. Here are my questions. All right, the first one. What color was Leonard's gun? Was it green?
Yeah,
Green
I
was what
think it
came to
was
my
green.
mind first.
Yes.
Nice.
Everyone's playing.
The next one, I do know this one. How many times does Annie get shot?
Oh, I don't know.
I think she takes 3 right to Annie's boobs there. It's like bang, bang, bang.
Yep. I agree.
I did see that part.
Of course
and
you
then
did.
We all do.
What does Pierce yell when he gets shot? I think he's
Medic.
like, "Oh, medic!"
Medic.
Medic, yes.
Medic.
Which seems very saving.
I
Private
also
Ryan.
really liked when he shoots Starburns. He's like, come on, it's just Starburns.
Starburst. Boom. Okay, this is a tough one. What
Okay.
region is the DVD player that the dean has as a prize replacement? And fun fact, in Mexico, all DVDs are region 4.
Huh? What's region?
Is
What's
it region 2?
Region is like, okay, so in the US, DVD players are region 1, and DVDs are like, the DVDs sold in different countries are region specific and can only be played on DVD players of that region. I don't really know which one they said the one.
I'm going to guess 2.
It was like 2 or 3 or 4 it would be, because the joke is that it's one that
not
you can't
one.
even use in the US because it's not the right region, but I'm not sure.
Now, I remember, though, on it was either my Xbox or my old PlayStation.
It was a region free.
Well, you could play like 4 times something from a different region. Like, it would like let you play it a certain amount of times, and then it was like...
That's a weird stipulation, but I know
It was
they make...
really weird.
I always wanted to get a region-free DVD player because the seasons of Malcolm in the Middle are only on DVD in other regions, so I wanted to buy those.
Why?
A lot of times it has to do with like music licensing, and streaming deals for music is different than home media deals for music, so a lot of these shows like Scrubs and That 70s Show, if you watch the DVDs, it's like generic region-free music instead of like the songs from the 70s. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway. That
fact.
being said, yeah, we don't know what the answer is. But
And then she finishes it up with a real toughie. How many times does Troy re-record his voicemail to Abed?
Oh,
I know it's at least 3 or 4.
I think we
it's
see
4.
3.
You see,
You think 4? Okay. I trust you.
right?
I think it's 3 because he does it the first
Maybe
time.
I don't trust you.
He does it the first time, then he did
Right.
the
Does
more
it really
masculine
high like Mickey
version.
Mouse voice?
Yes, the masculine version
yeah.
and
He does
the
one really,
Mickey
like,
Mouse
tough one.
version.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's 3.
I think we
And-
see 3, but there might have been, as annoyed as Jeff was, there were probably several more before we dropped into the scene.
Yeah. I also love that Jeff like has on like a coat, like he's ready to go out in the cold. It's a chilly day. But yeah, she says big hugs, Danny. So thank you, Danny, for writing in.
Thank
And that's all the
you.
trivia I have.
Well, thanks, Danny. Thanks, Daddy, for writing into us with some trivia. Always happy to have you guys contribute. And MJ, while we still got you, later in the episode, me and Steven will discuss our favorite funny moments and MVP player of the episode. What about for you, though? Do you have a go-to funniest moment from the episode or an MVP that just stands above the rest in this one?
Okay, first off, I would like to say as much as it's undeniable that this particular episode is very important and iconic in the general community, and it definitely influenced the show moving forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is even in my top 5 for season 1. Actually, if I'm being honest,
You know, I don't
Okay.
know where it would lay for me, really. That's true. I think I do like contemporary American poultry and comparative religion and maybe even like beginner pottery and physical education a
Yeah,
little bit
I
better
like
than
all
this
4 of
one.
those more than this episode.
But it's undeniable that the community that I love is really the season 2 and 3 community, and without this episode, those seasons might not have been what they were, and so like off the wall and experimental.
yeah.
So you got to give it credit, but I don't know why what it is about it. I don't know.
I think
don't know.
it's mostly because going back to contemporary American poultry, that episode was also high concept, but it at least had some character depth, especially with
Mm-hmm.
Abed and Jeffrey. But in this episode, we don't really get that much of that. We only
A ton
had
of that, no.
we only had the release of the sexual tension between Jeff and Britta, but it's not very character heavy, which is probably
Yeah,
why I
You're right. If they had just added a little bit of like emotional through line. They could have even done it with like Shirley's thing with her kids. I don't know. If they had just put a little bit more emotional through line, it would be more effective, like some of those episodes we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but all even with that being said, I think this was, a solid sixth out of the episodes we've discussed so far. So I definitely like beginner pottery more than this actually. I agree with that. For a favorite moment, there was a lot actually. But
Mhm.
I have to give it to the I guess the scene with the dean in the office, the one where Jeff went in all John McClane on him. I love that
That
scene.
was a very
Yeah.
good scene.
And though
Joel did that
though
scene very well.
yes, and when he took the gun on his back and shot him in the head, that was perfect. That was perfect timing. I loved it. And for an MVP, that's tough because pretty much everyone here was awesome in their own ways. I I would have to give
We'll
it to
get into
Chang.
ours at the end of the episode. You think it was what? Sorry.
Chang.
Chang, okay.
Chang.
See,
Good
we'll
pick.
get into
just
ours later. I think there's a pretty clear MVP for me, and I don't think I would go with Chang, but this is definitely one of the better Chang episodes we've had in a while. They haven't really used him that much this season.
I chose Chang because he went really hard into the paintball game. Like he did
Yeah.
say he did say that he's the one of the bastards who brought equipment, right? And he wasn't kidding. And so
No.
I like that he took the conceit of the episode very seriously, and the whole bomb thing was one of the most iconic scenes in Community, in my opinion, at least. So I have
Yeah,
to
for
give props
sure.
to Chang for that.
I remember back in the day watching Community for the first time. It used to just be on Hulu, and I remember the little like commercial intertitle that they'd always play was the shot of Jeff diving out of the study room as the green paint explodes. So
Yeah.
I've seen that one shot like a million times.
So many
it's
times.
really nostalgic.
Yep.
All right, well, we're going to have to wrap things up here, but it's really great to actually do this with you in person, MJ. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming
Thank
on
you
and
so
talking
much.
about such a classic episode.
Yeah, thanks so
Hopefully
much
this is
for-
something we can do again in the future for some of the other classic episodes.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks for always writing in and giving such good insights and really showing how little we know about the show. It's really entertaining.
thank you so much. I definitely want to do this again. Hopefully, if you guys don't mind, I would.
We don't
Yeah.
mind at
Especially
all.
with
It's so
season
cool.
2. Especially with season 2,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
season 2 is there's a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
on there.
It's just quintessential Community, pretty much
Yep.
front to back.
I just want to say thanks again for having me here, and thanks to all the listeners for interacting with you guys and forming this little community that celebrates community. That's
I
really
have to
fun.
ask MJ, did you find us through Communities?
Actually, no. I was just binging on a lot of community podcasts, and I was trying to find podcasts that go episode by
Episode by
episode, because
episode.
that's how I like to
Mhm.
listen to TV podcasts, and you're one of the few who does that. Actually, there are a couple of podcasts
There
that
are a
does that
ton
now.
now.
Yep, but I
Well,
stopped
that was
with
kind
you
of when
guys.
I wanted to. Well, thank you for doing that. At least
Yeah.
someone did. I think I wanted to start this. I didn't know there were so many community podcasts
Yeah.
when we started. We knew about 6 seasons in a podcast, and that was about it. But I was listening to The Darkest Timeline with Ken and Joel, and they always talk about how people want them to do an episode by episode community podcast, and they weren't really willing to do that. They didn't remember all the stuff as well as some of the other cast members did. My
Yeah.
thought was like, well, I could totally do that. I could totally do an episode by episode podcast. And apparently we're one of like 20 people who had the same idea. But thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks
so
to everyone
much.
listening. And everyone give MJ some Twitter love. What's your Twitter if you want to plug it so people can follow you?
Okay, you can find me at MJ Dolorico at Twitter, Instagram, And you can find me also on nah, we'll just go there. I actually also have a okay. I have we'll stop there. There are parts of my social media that you're not ready to see
You
yet.
want to
So
keep to yourself. No, I totally relate.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, go find him on Twitter and Instagram. It's just the tip of the MJ iceberg.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys,
The man,
for
the myth,
having
the
me.
legend.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, that was great. It's only been 3 seconds since we pressed the play button, but it feels like we really went on a journey together. Thank you so much, MJ, for jumping on board our show so many weeks ago and for giving us the pleasure to bring you on and to talk to you and to bring your trivia prowess to the next level. It was a great time.
Yeah, it was really great. Thanks for making it work and coming on the show, and we appreciate. Look forward to doing it again.
Yes, your bill will be arriving in the mail in a matter of days. So, to segue right back into more Modern Warfare discussion, Steven, what was your favorite funny moment this week?
Okay, so this was kind of tough for me because I have a favorite moment and then probably my favorite funny moment.
Well, give me your favorite funny moment and tell me your favorite moment when we get to it.
Okay, my favorite funny moment was probably either when the dean said to Britta to like chill when she was like, or last woman standing, he's like, enough, Britta, or whatever
Britta,
he said
come
there.
on. Come
yeah,
on,
Britta,
Britta,
come on.
come
That
on.
one made me laugh. And then also when Troy first sees Jeff and the whole Jeff Winger, you son of a bitch, I think was also pretty funny.
On the commentary, Dan said that he told Donald when they filmed that scene that he was just supposed to be every black guy in, I think, John Carpenter movies is what he mentioned. And he totally nailed it with
That was great. You son of a
Jeff
bitch.
Winger. I think for me the funniest moment was after the big intense showdown towards the end of the episode that ends in the downfall of a couple of study group members when Shirley's laying down on the ground and she and Britta have that, I'm going home, Britta. Yeah, Shirley, yes you are. I know. It's like, no, really, I'm going home. Can you help me up?
That was
a
really
very funny moment. And this is kind of an episode that, to segue into opinions, I guess, a little bit, isn't exactly laugh out loud hilarious as it is truly exciting. And a lot of the laughs come from little bits that you recognize from things that you've seen. And there are certainly some funny lines, but
Yeah.
let's just get into it. So
Let's
this is such a
skidoo.
classic episode that it's one of the most famous episodes of all of Community.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I love this episode.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan. It took me back to like watching it on TV for the first time because it's such a good episode. And it's one that I've seen several times before, and I could watch it 10 times and still like it just as much.
It's hard to go back to when I saw it for the first time because when I've seen it for the first time and all I have seen is what came before it, this episode, even with some of the homage episodes of recent, this one was just whoa. Like a shot of espresso that was like, what the heck? What is this show? And now, as a fan of the show and knowing that this is a well that they go back to many times, it doesn't quite have the same jaw-dropping effect, but it truly did the first time. It was so out of left field, but yet worked so well for the show that they had been building.
Yeah.
I think because of that, I think the paintball episodes are a little bit overrated. I'll say it. They're a little bit overrated. I feel like there are other homage episodes that are better pulled off, that are funnier, and are more in the vein of the emotions of the show and these characters, or however you want to say it. It's a great episode. It's definitely an A episode, but I don't think I'd put it at the top of the A episodes. It's not S tier, it's A tier for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's definitely A, not S. Especially the season one for me is A, not S. And I agree that it's not really that funny of an episode, but it's a really good episode.
A lot of healthy chuckles and but not a lot of laugh out loud. I think probably a big part of it is that there's not a whole lot of room for improv in this episode.
No.
Because it's so thoroughly plotted out and executed a certain way, which they nail. But a lot of times the funniest moments are those lines that some of these people come up with on the spot, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there had to have been a little bit of it in this episode because it's in every episode, but this one is almost one that I'm sure they had to like do a lot of storyboarding and really understand how each little bit of it was going to go and how it was going to look. This being said, I don't want to start it off on a negative because I do love this episode. I just don't think contemporary American poultry love it, if I'm being honest.
That's fair. I think that those two episodes are good examples of how much range Community has to kind of convey things, right? Like this, a lot of it, you know, is the tension between Jeff and Britta. That's kind of the like crux of what's going on, you know, in behind the scenes. In Poultry, it's more about, you know, Abed and Jeff both kind of coming to some realizations about themselves and their role in the group and how much they need, you know, other people. And both of those are, you know, things that are tackled and resolved, but it's so different sides of the spectrum, right? How it's kind of dealt with. And I think that kind of just shows how good Community is it can do an episode that's completely ridiculous and hilarious, and it can do, but like has a serious tone underneath. And it can do an episode that's completely ridiculous, but like exciting and action packed, and still come to some sort of, you know, actual character, you know, moment. Regardless of how I feel about, you know, the stuff on the show, in that vein, they do a good job in this episode of making it something you kind of care about.
Yeah, to compare the two a little bit further, it's like like you said, they're both ridiculous kind of zany scenarios, but the show takes paintball dead seriously.
Yeah.
Where when it was contemporary American poultry, sure, the people in the show took it like dead seriously, but there was a little bit more wiggle room for funny. It's like for this episode to work, it had to be a shot-for-shot action film. And it is. Okay, let's dig into it. Let's dig into it. I love how all these episodes that are so ridiculous in the first season start with something that feels pretty normal for the show. I think that's something they kind of dropped after a while. A lot of times they just drop you right into like, okay, this is what we're doing this week, and you better get on board. We start with this post-ironic disco scoot. I can't say it at all. Why did I pick it for my thing? This post-ironic disco stew guy haunting the hallways as Jeff and Britta are walking to study group, having a little bit of their typical banter. That's when they're talking about raisins and chocolate chip cookies, and they make fun at the expense of the disco guy a little bit. It's just from the very beginning of this episode, we're making it clear that we're finally going to do something with this Jeff and Britta stuff that's going on.
Well, and I'm kind of glad because they spent so much time like making it a thing, and then
they kind of dropped it.
Completely dropped it for the whole bulk of the season, which I'm fine with because I don't like it. But I'm glad they're at least going to be like, okay, we'll address this now.
I almost wish, I don't know, the dropping it period is weird. We don't care that much about the romances on this show, but it does feel weird to have dropped it and then return to it. Just the same as like, I don't think we mentioned it, but I believe it was in The Art of Discourse, or might have even been American Poultry.
It was in Discourse where Shirley talks about Vaughn and Annie.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. All of a sudden they bring up that Vaughn and Annie are still together, and we haven't seen Vaughn in like 6 episodes or even heard about him. It feels a little bit similar. But this is, I don't know, it's good to finally see them do something with what they've been setting up all season from literally moment 1 of the first episode.
Yeah.
They're all talking about, I don't know, just kind of random things. Shirley's talking about her relationship with her kids and like a cute mom thing that she did. And they're all having a friendly conversation until Jeff and Britta kind of walk in and suck the fun out of whatever was happening in the study group, because now all the attention's on them, kind of like playfully ripping at each other. It's another thing in this episode is that like the study group is over it. They pick up what's going down, and they're ready for it to be over with. They groan at everything Jeff and Britta say, and I think Jeff and Britta think they're the best. They think they're the coolest, so it surprises them to be cornered this way.
Now, you said this came out May 6th. That's around Mother's Day, right? Isn't Mother's Day in May?
Is it?
I think so, because it's after Easter, right? That makes sense.
Shrug.
So this is the Mother's Day episode, right, of the show. I have
Sure.
a question for you, Zach, because Shirley talks about, her kid's going to make her breakfast in bed that's really her making breakfast, and they bring it to her.
Okay.
What sorts of things did you do for your mom on Mother's Day when
Why
you
do
were
I
younger?
feel like this is like being antagonistically directed towards me?
No, I'm asking just genuinely. Like, what sorts of sweet little things did you do for your mom?
Honestly, probably not as much as I should have, but it might have been different if I was in a family like where there were several kids
That's true.
and family group outings. I was very much an independent child, but I do remember, and I'll share this. White Castle would have like in Anderson would have this like fancy White Castle Mother's Day event where you have
That
to make
sounds
like
beautiful.
a reservation for it, and they lay like a tablecloth and some like decorations on your White Castle table, and you share some castles with your loved family member.
That sounds amazing. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I think you and I should do it. We should do it.
Yeah.
They used to do it for Valentine's Day too. I've spent a Valentine's Day at White Castle before. That would be the perfect Valentine's Day.
That really would be great.
What about you then? Because I feel like you've definitely got a story.
Okay, so when I was younger, I was really big. I would like to write an original song for my mom every Mother's Day that was much akin to the song that Buddy the Elf sings in Elf when he's like, "You're my
Okay.
dad and I love you," and it was like that
Okay.
for some years. But I am the oldest of 3 siblings, and so it was also my job to orchestrate the Mother's Day things, which meant waking them up and then me making breakfast and letting them help and then bringing it to my mom.
So
But
it all kind of rested on your shoulders.
It did.
And you had to make it look like everybody was doing something.
Sure did. And I had to make them feel like they were doing something too.
I'm sure they did.
They did. Now, luckily, when I got a little bit older, my brother and sister were really gung-ho about doing stuff. And so they would, take care of more of the load. But pretty much, it was make her something in the morning that she would eat half of and then politely wait for us to leave the room so she could get rid of it, and then yeah,
talking about Mother's Day, I'm suddenly so much more concerned about Daddy's Day because we
what are we
did
gonna
not
do
shout
for
out our
communities?
community daddy. We did
Wow.
not give Daddy our love.
Whoa. We're in trouble now.
And community Papa, if you feel the need to take the belt to me and Steven for this misdeed, I understand. And for those of you who this means nothing, please follow Communities on Twitter. They're awesome, and they have helped us out tremendously over this 6 months now that we've been doing this show. Maybe more.
Make sure you subscribe to our Patreon to see me go pick a switch for our community Papa to subsequently discipline us with.
We need to stop making Patreon jokes because one day we're going to have enough listeners to start one, and they're not going to think we're being serious. We're going to be like, yes, we will actually do this.
We're going to actually
for
have one
your
and they're going
money.
to be like, okay. Well, I'm serious about everything I've said so far.
Okay, someone go back and compile a list of all the things Steven
all
has
the promises
promised to
I've
do
made.
for money, and we'll make it happen for you if you're willing to pay that $1 a month. Yeah, they're all talking about how, Annie starts to say that the Jeff Bridget thing was cute at first, but it's gotten kind of annoying, and she kind of passes the talking stick to Abed, who, of course, has a finger on the pulse of what's been going on, and how, Jeff and Britta aren't exactly Ross and Rachel, or Sam and Diane, which Shirley hates. They have the sexual attention, but it's a lot more antagonistic than it is oh man, these two people need to get together and they just don't see it. It's out of their own egos, why they're interested in each other.
It's true, and I think maybe that's why I probably am interested in Jeff and Britta together almost the least of any of the ships, the OTPs, if you will.
Mm-hmm. If
in
you
the
must.
show. Because I just don't. I mean, on paper, they're the two characters that should be together, because they're the two most prominent members of the group so far. And
but they tend to bring out the worst in each other rather than,
they're not actually good together in that sense. They
I
are
mean,
friends.
if you think about how often we harped on Jeff's character in the first quarter of the season, it was mostly in the fraction of the season where he was most pining over Britta.
Absolutely. As soon as he kind of dropped that, I was like, oh, I do like Jeff.
Now that Britta's out of the way, he's all mine.
Exactly.
The dean interrupts the study room,
walk.
walking into it, and yeah, this is such a dean thing that'll, like so many phenomenal episodes of Community, start with the dean walking into the study room and doing something zany, and it's starting to feel like that. We're starting to get to that point of the show,
which for me is like, when I think of my favorite times in Community, I feel like almost every episode starts with him coming in the room in some outrageous costume and making a pun. And like, I just can't wait until the dean costume
gets a crazy costume. Yeah, I think, I don't know, just a couple months from now, this podcast is going to look totally different because we're going to be discussing totally different things about an almost totally different show.
Well, we're going to be talking exclusively about the dean at some point, so that's,
right.
It's really unfortunate the rest of the characters aren't going to get their shine.
Dean appoint a pod dean.
Hey, there we go. And we'll put
Zach
some, like,
and
whooping. Deanvin, I like it.
He's reminding everyone about the spring fling that is outside, and he's you always got to have that shot of him parroting onto Jeff's shoulder with his hand, and Jeff just looking at it and accepting what's happening. He's talking about the festival that they're gonna have. Everyone's like, why is the dean here? Why is he telling just us about this? He makes Pierce really uncomfortable, and he brings up that there's going to be a game of paintball assassin, which is what we all bought our ticket for. That's what we're all here for, the big paintball game, with the prize for the last man standing, or last man in wheelchair with no paint, or Britta has to make it about equality, so she brings up or last woman, and
Give
there's
it a
your
rest,
moment,
Britta.
a minute and 30 seconds. There's your funniest moment. Give it a rest.
Oh, that made me laugh.
The prize was going to be a Blu-ray DVD player, which was stolen, so now it's TBD, prompting a couple of funny TBD jokes for Troy's like, I want that, what's that? And Pierce is like, I think I had it in the 70s.
Now, in terms of paintball, have you ever gone paintballing, Zach?
I certainly have not.
Okay, I did for the very first time, I think in February or March. It was right before quarantine.
Right.
And it
How
was
was it?
really, really, really fun. But
I'm
I will
sure
tell
it
you
is.
some things I can dispel about this episode. Nobody's taken a point-blank paintball to the skin and not reacting.
Well, you know that the
it
actors
hurts.
in this show literally did. They're actually shooting each other with paintballs most of these
Are you serious?
shots. Absolutely.
That shit hurts so bad. I had a welt on my hand for 3 months from
Now
getting shot in
I'm
the hand with a paintball.
sure they were able to have more things at their expense, like exactly how hard
Softer
the guns are
ones,
propelling
yeah.
them, exactly how hard the paintballs are. They might be ones that were
Because I'm thinking
easier to burst.
specifically of
when
a
they
scene-
shoot the dean's bald
yeah.
head.
And I'm like, there's no way that wouldn't bruise.
I'm sure they had some filmmaking tricks to do that, but I know... Well, we'll get to it as we
Yeah.
get into the episode. We're still in this little beginning part. Jeff isn't worried about the paintball game at all. He's so worried about, there's nothing between me and Britta. And it's a little... This is already annoying, It's already
We're
annoying.
not.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like her.
It's exactly what it
Gross.
is, because you know that, he's like, haha, unless...
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's acting like a little kid, and Pierce says it right when he says...
There's no Britta and Jeff, he said, fully erect.
Man, Pierce has been coming through strong with the one-liners these last few episodes, especially. Very strong.
Yeah, Pierce has been having a good showing lately,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not in a ton of this episode, but he has a strong showing in this episode. Jeff says, you know what, I'm going to leave study group and go take a nap in my car. You guys can all argue about my relationship status. I'm going to go sleep in the Lexus. And did his housing situation ever really...
Okay,
do we know
I
where
was
Jeff
wondering.
is
I don't
living?
think we know for sure that he's not still living in his car. He's pretty comfortable sleeping there, clearly.
Because that was way early in the season, but it was... He stayed with Abed, and then he left Abed's. Did he get his apartment back in that episode?
I think he
did.
was looking online for apartments. but I
Yeah,
didn't think
he was
actually
looking
got
at
one.
listings. Yeah, so he threw them off the trail, and he's really been living in his car this whole time.
We
Insane.
need to release a... It's not game theory. What's the thing? It's like the show theories? I don't know.
Fan theory?
Maybe. There's like a YouTube channel.
he backs out of the study room and stands outside staring at them for a couple of seconds, and everyone's like, what are you waiting for? And it's because he saw the Disco Stew guy rollerblading or whatever and wanted him to run into the screen door.
You know, Jeff really has taken a lot of aggression on Disco Stew.
Yeah.
Unwarranted, I think.
Yeah, I love The Simpsons. Take it easy on him.
Yeah. Also, let's talk about the best part of this episode, Zach.
I don't know that I'd say it's the best part of the entire classic episode, but yes.
We get our full theme song.
This is probably like number 3, number 4-ish of the entire season where we've got
It's our first in a long-ass time, that's for sure.
And this theme song sequence is so integral to like the vibe of the show, and it's the first season that's so integral in establishing the vibe of the show, and we've barely gotten the theme song sequence at all. So it was really great to see that cootie catcher, to see all the little doodles with everyone's names again, and to get to tap my toe to the entire song for a second. It was a good feeling.
Yeah, it was.
When we see it 20 weeks from now, it'll be another good one. I feel like it's got to start showing up more often at some point.
I think so.
Because I remember it so clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely remember in later seasons when it got sadder because there was more of a gap between each person's name card as more people left the series. So after the theme song, it's an hour later. And this is kind of, I think this is one of the first specific references to something.
Yeah,
it's definitely
I think so.
pointing at 28 days later. Even though this episode is mostly action movie based, there is certainly a bit of zombie movie stuff in here, especially when they're outside and like everything's all trashed and it's like you're looking for the other groups of scavengers or whatever.
And it has that kind of like cool color filter over everything. It looks a little bit blue.
And just in this hour that Jeff's been asleep, everything's changed. And it's totally like what Alex brought up with American Poultry, where it's like the school, it's something that would have taken days or weeks or months, and within hours or minutes in this situation, really, everyone's gotten so on board with this paintball game. And I have to think, did the school that can't afford anything, did they provide all of the equipment? Did they provide all of the ammo? Right? Or did everyone have like 20 minutes to go raid the nearest store of paintball stuff? But
you know, I'd like to see
think of it that deep.
The underground story. I want to see this whole episode from Dean Pelton's perspective.
I want to see this whole series from Dean Pelton's perspective.
Be a lot of Dalmatians.
How come, you know, I think we're really missing out on an opportunity for a great spin-off. Young Sheldon. What do you think?
And guys, thank you for watching You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Nobody's watching it, you son of a bitch.
For our video viewers, that wink was for you.
Put your shirt back on. So Jeff wakes up in his car and sees how things have descended into madness in just this quick nap. I don't think I could ever fall asleep in my car just sitting like that, let alone while a zombie apocalypse is happening outside. Yeah, his car's been shot.
Which is not great because I'm sure it will wash off, but you know, do you think Jeff has car wash money? He's sleeping in his car that's illegally parked.
I do feel like he's the type of person that, like, even if he doesn't have a house, he doesn't have money for groceries, he's got his fancy car and he's going to keep it clean.
Of course.
I wouldn't be surprised if he would spend money on washing his car before spending money on his well-being, for sure.
That tracks.
The set department, and we talked about it with MJ a little bit, just absolutely nails everything in this episode.
Yeah.
The way he walks out and this the outside quad area where the spring fling was is just descended into this like post-apocalyptic wasteland, and they've done a really great job at it.
Well, because it tells so much of a story. Like, you know that like this is where a bunch of people were, and it got you know nuts, and a bunch of people got taken out. The thing for me that is most impressive in this episode, and I'm sure maybe it wasn't necessarily difficult to do, but it probably took a lot of time, is all the paint splatter everywhere. I mean, somebody had to do that with each of these, you know, spots, and they are everywhere. Like, it's not like there's like a little bit of paint. Like, it's all over the place, and that's awesome.
They were talking about on the commentary, like, someone asked them on Twitter how long it took them to clean up the set, and they said that, like, even weeks, months later, like, when they were coming back to shoot season 2, they would still find points in the set that still had paint on them.
That's crazy. I believe it.
So the hallways are completely trashed. Jeff's walking in, and it looks like a ghost town. you don't see anybody. The first person that we see in this episode, now that we're in the paintball game, is Garrett, who looks like he's just had a really hard time. He was hiding underneath the banner. They said in the commentary that Eric Charles Nielsen, is that right?
That sounds right.
That he was so scared to get shot. He gets shot in this scene here in a moment when Leonard comes around. And I guess when they started filming, they made all of the actors like just get shot with one once so they could brace themselves, so they could know how intense it was. And he was really scared, and it like really hurt, and he kept saying that he didn't think he could do it. This whole little thing between him and Jeff, you can kind of tell that he's anticipating it.
He looks very nervous.
But Garrett is the guy who is explaining that,
the paintball game was starting, and then the dean announced the prize. The prize. We turned on each other like animals.
What was the prize?
This is not over. This is still happening right now.
It's really funny. Just immediately totally committing to the bit. And then he gets shot by Leonard, who is now here around the corner, and he's chasing after Jeff to shoot him. Jeff says he's not playing, but everyone's
playing.
As Jeff runs around the corner away from Leonard, Abed comes from the other corner and instinctively is going to shoot Jeff because he's in deep with this game. Abed jumps over Jeff on the wall, does a really badass wall jump, and takes out Leonard on Jeff's behalf. Aw, nuts. You suck.
Yeah, Abed looks so cool here. I mean, it's super, post-apocalyptic action movie. This is like a kind of a blend of The Matrix and like a Terminator, Sarah Connor type situation going on.
I don't know. I feel like the future paintball episodes remind me less of this one than the floor is lava episode reminds me a little bit of this one, and kind of the school is developed into this post-apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah.
Every man for themselves.
That they've taken this game so far.
Come with me if you don't want paint on your clothes is such a classic line that, Abed's just been waiting for the right moment to say.
Yeah.
That one is, come with me if you want to live. Is that Terminator?
Yeah.
I've never seen the Terminator. I have seen the first Matrix. You mentioned the Matrix.
Yeah.
And I have seen, I think there's some small references to Alien in this one. I have seen the first Alien.
I really like the Alien movies.
Quite a few films they reference that I haven't seen. I've never seen Die Hard. I've never seen Predator. I've never seen any of the Terminators.
I would say out of the movies referenced in this, Die Hard is far and away the best one, in my opinion.
I know there's some reference. John Woo is a director who has a really certain stylistic outlook on action movies, and I know there's some stuff in this episode that's directly referencing him. I've never seen any of his stuff. I just got to out myself. I want to be outright. But this goes to show that an episode like this can still be so great, even if you haven't seen the things that they're referencing.
Which speaks to the show, right? Because
it would be easy for something like this to be like uninclusive. Just like I loved contemporary American poultry before I had ever seen Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You kind of know what they're going for, and I don't know. They do a really great job of keeping it inclusive and also keeping it really specific in their references.
Very much so.
Now we cut to this like safe, I guess the neutral zone is what they called the area Jeff was in, or the safe zone or something. And Abed brings Jeff into this little like hideout room that they have. Troy gets ready to shoot, but Abed does this like little bird call thing to like tell him that it's safe, and he brings Jeff in. This is when we get that classic Donald Glover just giving a phenomenal parody of typically in action movies like this what the African American guy is like. He's like
son of a bitch,
the best friend. Yeah. The way he hugs Jeff, and it's almost like it's not Troy at all.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He became a character from one of these movies.
Yeah. I thought you were dead, man. He was just taking a nap in his car. And this is a great scene that shows, like, now Jeff is with his friends and he's really seeing how everything's devolved into madness because they're so invested in it. One of my favorite moments here is the way Troy says, the prize. The prize. When they bring up the prize. Everyone's so obsessed with this prize, but Jeff doesn't get to know what it is yet. And I don't know, just the way this whole scene is framed. When Jeff doesn't know what the prize is, the way the shot of Troy in the foreground while Jeff's in the background was like, oh, you don't know, do you? And they explain the priority registration, which when I was a kid watching this episode, I was like, who cares about something like that?
You're just signing up for your classes.
And it is that a little bit. I think that's supposed to be the joke a little bit. But no, priority registration...
Listen.
You can have all your classes on Monday. You could have all of your classes be night classes. You could have all of your classes be like at the beginning of each day. You could do anything you wanted.
Listen, as soon as those class portals open,
it's over.
It is over for people are like
it's over.
Dogs.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember trying to find a computer. Yeah, it's
like
insane.
you were prepped. Like you're like, okay, I know I want this, this, and this. If I try and get it at this time, then I can do this.
It's like you're trying to get on right at 2 a.m. when the BTS concert tickets drop.
Exactly that.
It's like you are number 8,973 in line to get into the line.
Exactly. To then pay the money for the tickets.
Jeff thinks it's a little bit ridiculous, like I did, but he quickly comes to realize exactly what this prize could mean for him if he got it. And he's such a slacker, and he's such the guy that wants to take the easiest classes, wants to get out of the work, and so this is all of a sudden really important for him. He goes right for a gun, and now all of the friends are pointing guns at each other. Well, he goes for the gun, and he doesn't quite grab it because now Troy and Abed are really on his ass. And they're all talking.
Sugar Bear.
Yeah, they're all talking about, like, we all know what we could do. We all know what this prize means. Everyone wants it. There's no way to share it. So basically, Abed is explaining the concept of an alliance, which I know all about as your I don't know,
neighborhood Big Brother
super fan.
Yeah. Aficionado.
They're gonna team up with each other. They all want the prize. Only one of them can get the prize. But if they team up together, they can get rid of everyone else, and then they can turn on each other, and at least one of them will get the prize.
Yeah, which is the proper way to do an alliance, I think.
Right. They talk about how there have been a lot of groups. The debate team fell to infighting. They teamed up, and they were the first taken down. The Glee Club has been luring people into traps by singing.
Well, although wasn't the debate team just Annie and Jeff at one point? Now that I think about it.
I think there's a chance there were other people like sitting next to them as if they were also on the team.
They just weren't.
But they were definitely struggling for people. I remember the dean had to blackmail Jeff to even get him to join the debate team. Mm-hmm. Jeff says, "I'm all for winning, but let's not resort to cheap ploys." And then he rips his shirt off.
To then be rocking the John McClane look from Die Hard, because Bruce Willis always managed to be in a I almost called it a wife beater. What are they actually called? Tank tops?
They're not called wife beaters?
That's literally the only name I know for them.
Yeah.
Woo!
I think I bought some for a play once, and it was called like an A shirt or something like that on the package, and I was like, this shit's a wife beater.
Like, come on, call it what it is.
Call it John Lennon. We all know what it is.
Ringo.
I always thought the thing was that, like, Joel McHale got surprisingly more ripped as the series went on, but he's shown in this episode that it was there.
He
from the
was
beginning.
already in pretty good shape.
Looks
you
great.
know who secretly is kind of built? The Dean, and I'll point out later on.
Absolutely.
But like he's pretty built.
I know that you haven't seen the series finale, that it's one of the only handful of episodes, but it prominently features the Dean like dancing, wearing only a diaper.
Wow.
And he's like shockingly jacked.
Nice. Good for him.
It's like you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
And Jim Rash likes to talk a lot about how, like, they always like to put him in these like mold green colors and these like poop brown, like they really make him look bad.
Yeah.
He's like, I look alive sometimes. He's like, I look like a human being. Jeff automatically goes to are the girls in the game, which ties back in the Britta and Jeff of it all, where they all think he's just trying to talk about Britta, which he kind of is. You know, he says her name more times than he intended to without noticing. Someone opens up the door to their safe room, someone from Chess Club, and he's got like armor made out of chessboards. That's pretty funny. They run to chase after him, but he's a pawn. There are several more Chess Club nerds outside ready to strike. It's really a funny thing how they push out like this mannequin with a sombrero on a chair as a decoy to use all of their paint. It is a little weird how they shoot him like 20 times before they're like, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't waste all of our ammo on this.
You know,
but it's pretty badass as Jeff, Troy, and Abed get to walk up behind them, say checkmate, bitches, and take them all out. It's a good time.
It is. Oof. And tell the drama club their tears will be real today.
One of the only times that Jeff's like really bad quips that he makes sometimes actually works because we're in the middle of an action movie.
Right?
Now they sneak over into like the cafeteria area, the little lounge, and they run into Pierce and Starburns, who are just looting. They've taken this as their opportunity. They're totally the people that show up to the protests and are like, let's see what's going on over at Walmart.
Yep.
You know?
Quite literally.
They just are taking as much stuff as they can manage to take out of the snack machine, and the study group catches them. I wonder how this happened. Do you think that the study group or those that were playing from the beginning instantly like lost Pierce?
I think that it's a very real possibility that the game started and Troy and Abed went together and the girls went together and they didn't even think about Pierce. Pierce probably still just sitting there and he said, well, I'll find my own partner, and then went off and got Starburns.
Well, Pierce is a big crux in the second season paintball episode because a lot of it is about him being like shunned and like being on his own in this like war that's going on, and this has shades of that a little bit.
Totally.
Pierce is mad because he didn't know that people formed an alliance without him. I think they probably told Pierce it was every man for himself, and he just went with it. And since he's with Starburns, they're going to have to take him out. But he's willing to get rid of Starburns if he gets to get back with the study group. So he just point blank shoots Starburns from right next to him with his hands full of snacks. And there are quite a few good little Chevy moments here, but this is a really good one. He's like, come on, it's just Starburns.
It's
Who
just
cares?
Starburns, yeah.
So it's time to go to the bathroom. And Pierce gets like a situation where he can prove himself loyal by guarding the restroom while his friends go pee. He's wearing a diaper for the game, so he doesn't need to worry about it, for the game.
For the game, of course.
And now we have another one of the best framed and shot sequences in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
The bathroom is just scattered with paint. Jeff checks underneath all the stalls to make sure no one's there before he goes to the bathroom. They're all back facing the stalls using the urinals, and we see a close-up of Abed's face. Then it cuts to the wall, and there's this really pleasing shot of just a drop of green paint.
Isn't it nice?
Like fresh running green paint coming down the wall to, alarm Abed that something foul is afoot.
Mm-hmm. The paint is fresh.
And then as he steps back, the way that it reveals that this has happened several times already, because there's like a frame of where a person is and then a bunch of like paint splatter around them. So it shows him that this is part of a trap that he's about to get lost in. And it works really, really, really well. This is one of my favorite moments in the episode.
Yeah, it's really good.
As soon as Abed is able to voice that something is going on, the girls all come out of the stalls, and it's them. This has been their ploy the whole time. They've been hanging out. I'm sure this was probably Britta's idea. Let's hang out in the men's bathroom and get rid of all of them as they go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And it's been working pretty well. And now we get an action movie trope where the entire study group are pointing guns in each other's faces and yelling. Annie, having fashioned the trash can lid into a hat, pops out of the trash can to also point guns. And they're all just yelling over each other. It's a really funny turn of the typical study group yelling over each other until someone brings it down, except this time they're all pointing guns in each other's faces.
The stakes have been risen, if only slightly.
Something that I had never thought of in relation to this episode that Dan Harmon brought up on the commentary is that they pull it off, but this episode is about a bunch of people shooting guns in a school.
It absolutely is, but your mind doesn't go there at all.
It doesn't go there at all, but Dan mentioned that they were all worried because a lot of movies that have had scenes of gun violence or TV shows that have scenes of gun violence have had to pull them because something traumatic happens.
Yeah.
And they were really concerned. This is kind of a thing like, oh man, I hope no one shoots up a school so my paintball episode of my TV show doesn't get messed with. But they were like really relieved that they were able to make this episode. There were no problems. They were able to put it out. It was well accepted.
Well, and
there wasn't
one
any
thing
controversy.
that certainly helps them is all the guns in this are very brightly colored. And
I had never thought about that before. And it's so clear that it's paint. It's so clear that it's silly. And they're referencing those high action, violent movies that you kind of forget you were in a school for big chunks of this.
Absolutely you do. And they do
even though we're using
job.
the school setting, they do a great job with it. You're right.
Yeah, because they transform it into an action movie arena. Mm-hmm. You know, even though it's in a school.
It could have been anywhere.
Yeah.
It just happens. Greendale's the sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
So Abed's telling everyone to be cool. They're all pointing guns at each other. And Abed proposes that they merge alliances together so they can beat everyone else, because it does seem like there are more people on campus that are still participating in this than what it originally seemed when Jeff was walking out of his car.
Yeah.
It looked like there was just the leftover carnage. There's still chess teams and glee clubs and groups of people that have teamed up. This gives even another opportunity for Jeff and Britta to make it about them, and they start bickering back and forth while everyone's pointing guns at each other, which annoys everyone to the point where then they all just turn their guns to Jeff and Britta to tell them to shut up.
The amount of times that they were like ready to just shoot Jeff and Britta in this episode cracks me up.
So a couple of thoughts. Obviously, the people making this season of the show had some stake in Jeff and Britta as a character pairing. Mm-hmm. And in this episode, it seems a lot like the study group are the audience proxy, where they keep saying, we don't care, shut up, stop talking about it. What do you think that... Are we supposed to ship Jeff and Britta, or are we supposed to...
I think you were supposed to at the beginning of the show. I think that's what they wanted, is like, okay, this will be the... You know, will they, won't they? They're kind of, butting heads, but, and I think... I don't remember the critical reception of that back in the day, but I know how I feel about it and how I've always felt about it, and it was, why?
And it's not a well that they stop returning to after it comes to a head in the end of this first season and the beginning of the second. I can think of something as late as the season 5 finale that is Jeff and Britta centered. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think... Because then it's confusing, too, because they never, like, really push it, but they allude a lot to Jeff and Annie having feelings for each other a lot.
Well, I think it's a little bit because of exactly what we've said, is that they bring out each other's ego, so they're always going to be attracted to each other. They're always going to be prone to... like snap emotional judgments made out of like being horny, like they do many times in this episode and in the episode in season 5 that I'm thinking of. What I'm thinking of is in the end of season 5, I forget, it looks like something big is going to happen, and Jeff and Britta are like, let's get married. And they act like they're going to get married. And it's so clearly like a spiral, just like how this is a spiral.
Yeah.
I think it's always supposed to be that way, that they just make each other spiral, where I guess I'll give credit to the Jeff and Annie pairing. They can bring out positives in each other.
Mm-hmm. I think if nothing else, Annie brings out positives in Jeff.
And Jeff could probably, Annie could chill out a little bit more often, and Jeff could probably bring that out in her. I am to the point where I am cautiously optimistic for when we get to episodes that focus a little bit more on Jeff and Annie. Maybe I'll finally start to see the light that everyone else seems to see.
Apparently, yeah.
Or maybe I'll start pretending like I do.
Or you will come over to
likes
my
me.
dark side and exclusively ship Troy and Britta.
Yeah, I remember not hating Troy and Britta, honestly. Especially, I've said this before, in season 3 when they were setting it up. They did pretty well with it.
Yeah.
And season 4, when it was an actual thing, it wasn't as bad as people say it is. It didn't add anything to anything.
Okay, I will agree with that wholeheartedly. I really was into it when they were setting it up and when they first started, but among other things with season 4, they didn't necessarily
do anything with it
Yeah.
at all. Yeah. Okay, so everyone is outside now. This is another one of those scenes that feels like it has a really big zombie movie influence where they're all just, it's almost like a Walking Dead kind of like outside looking over their
There's
shoulder.
like steam floating around for no real reason, but it's spooky.
Yes. Annie restates that they're teaming up together until they are the only people left, and then they will turn on each other. And this is when we get a funny interaction between Troy and Shirley when they're like, Troy's like, I think we might already be the only 7 people left. We should just go ahead and gang up on them, and one of us can have it. And Shirley makes a comment about how that wouldn't look so good to the other black students. What did you think of that line?
No, I think it's not great PR for the black students. If it's like, all right, the 2 black people in the group took everyone else out. I see where Shirley's coming from. I thought that was a funny joke.
I think it could also look great. I think it would also be like, hell yeah, the black students
We survived.
teamed up
We
and
actually
took
made it
everyone else.
through.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. But I do love Troy's, I'm not an ambassador. I'm a gladiator.
That's a great line. Now, speaking of Alien earlier, I have to give a lot of credit to the movie Alien vs. Predator. I'm going to guess it came out sometime between 2005 and 2008.
Okay.
The first movie I ever saw, personally, where the last surviving person was a black person. And not only that, it was a black woman.
Nice. Well, I feel like now that's a thing where it used to never happen, so now it
always
more often.
happens. Yeah. But let's the most realistic ones are when the black person leaves immediately, because
Like, oh hell no, I am not dealing
out.
with this. I'm gonna go back home.
he said I'm
All the
gone.
white people are like, oh no, there's a bump in the closet. Let's go see what it is. Or if like a man with a knife is chasing them, they're like, well, let's figure out their backstory. Or like, well, let's...
right? Like, well, what made you this way? That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I like when the girl always tries to reason with the like murderous person. They're like,
Like,
think
I'm already
about
trying
what
to
you're
kill
doing.
you.
It's like,
I feel like we've already passed that point.
right? The wake of 30 people that's behind me sure kind of ruins that.
The paintballs start flying out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they're under attack, so they all hide behind tables. This set piece is done really well, where like there's 2 or 3 like tables or boxes that they're hiding behind with some space in between them. They've done such a great job turning this spring fling into a battlefield. They're all hiding and waiting for the shots to finish firing. They deduct that it's the Glee Club, and they know this because if you listen, you can hear them singing.
Yeah. So
This is part of their like trap that they're trying to set up, and it gives Community yet another chance to talk shit about Glee for a second,
They
like
love
they like
to.
to do. They call them uninspired. They call them out for not writing original songs. And on the commentary, Dan said something like, "Do we hate Glee? No, we're just jealous. We're just jealous of their ratings."
fair enough.
And he said that, well, even in this episode, like they're talking shit about Glee, and Jeff says something like, it seems like whatever they're doing is working. So they even like when they're taking the piss out of Glee, they'll throw in something like that, or they're really more making fun of themselves for being less successful than they are Glee for being successful.
Yeah, and I mean, and Glee has already accomplished to take out 2 of the study members now, because we've lost Troy, and then Annie took 3 shots to the chest, and
right to Annie's boobs.
right there. Funny. So my mom was like, I don't know why you guys had to mention Annie's boobs in the post about your episode. And I was like, we're talking about the monkey. And she was like, oh.
It's so funny how they know that they're basically got, and they can't hide here forever, so they've got to do something to throw someone into this trap so they can get away. And they do it by, Pierce is by himself behind something, and Jeff says, "Hey Pierce, don't come over here, okay?" Pierce, "Screw you, I'm coming over." Of course Pierce would,
More great physical acting by Chevy Chase here as he yells medic after getting shot by this
after
paintball.
getting hit with paint. You know that the dean doesn't have any money for medical care for their students.
No.
He's spending it all on kissing booths for the spring fling and on thousands of paintballs.
And who can even imagine the amount of money that's gone into his Dalmatian memorabilia collection?
Right. They were willing to let Pierce go, and it gave away where they were being shot from, which was in the trees. And there's a really great shot of them all just plummeting the trees with paintballs, and then one by one, the Glee Club hiding in the trees fall to their demise.
That poor guy who was already hanging, dangling from the tree, then gets shot again by Abed.
Well, if they just wrote some original songs, maybe it wouldn't happen that way.
You know what I would have really hated? And maybe they did do this, but did Glee ever do original songs?
Yes,
Gross.
and you shouldn't have been asking for it, community.
Yeah, that was not a good idea.
Also, like, I never totally got that as a detractor from Glee, because they're
a Glee
high
club.
School show choir.
Like,
I
you know
get
how
why-
stupid we would have looked if we, at a show choir competition, did an original freaking song? That would have been stupid as hell.
I think the idea was like, well, Glee was selling millions of albums and copies of songs when they were the hottest things, and it was covers of other people's songs.
I spent at least probably $50 on iTunes buying Glee albums and singles.
Absolutely, and I don't know. I think that's where the anger came from. But for like a creative decision for the show, of course they would sing like other people's songs, and they did after a while do a thing where they all wrote original songs, and they were all terrible. They were terrible.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Except Loser Like Me is still kind of a bop. I'll give them that one.
Whose was that?
They had an episode where they all wrote original songs and they were all bad, and then that was like the one that they all wrote together.
Oh,
that was good. Yeah.
Okay.
When I went to the Glee concert, they definitely performed it live.
Nice.
3 of those people are dead now.
Holy shit. You are absolutely right.
Yeah. 3 of those people are dead now.
Man, not the show to be on.
I recently, I guess I talked about Glee. I recently was talking to someone, and they didn't know that the guy that played Puck, like, did what he did.
Yeah, he was not...
They knew that he had died, but they didn't know, like, what he was into.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I remember when that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show has been very troubled, but we'll save that for the Glee cast.
Yes, we will.
Now we cut to yet another one of my favorite set pieces in this episode, when they're all sitting around the empty cafeteria around a trash can fire.
Well, and I love this scene especially because in, like, the action movies, this always happens, you know, after usually they've lost somebody. And it does exactly what it does in this episode. It kind of, you know, humanizes the characters in the movies. You get to see...
Taking stock of who's left and of what they've been through and of what they're going for. Yeah.
And it almost always leads to then losing whatever character, you know, makes you feel the most emotionally connected here, in the movies at least. And they do a great job of continuing that with this episode.
They're talking about what they'd do with the prize if they got it, and it totally is that scene where they're all talking about, like, what they would all do if they got out of the situation, if they got away with their life.
I'm going to hug
like,
my
I'm gonna
babies.
be a better mom. Yeah, totally. Shirley's going to be a better mom. Britta's going to try to take classes that don't have tests. A couple of them bring up different options, but this is when Britta suggests that whoever wins should give it to Shirley as a Mother's Day gift, because it's been well documented throughout the season that she has had trouble and that she's not getting to see her children as much with her class load, and that the priority registration could really do her some good.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit surprised that Abed was the one who immediately is like, absolutely, let's do this. Because, of course, Abed, I guess, doesn't really care about the prize. He's just having fun
Abed
with
is
what
having
they're
a
all
blast
doing.
playing Paintball Assassin. He would have been this into the game if the prize was, you know, a gumball.
And Jeff even makes this her suggesting that they give to Shirley into a thing for he and Britta to bicker over, saying that it's like phony and that it's always her like fake humanitarianism, which sometimes Britta is like that, but this was just nice.
Not this time, yeah.
Yeah. And they argue over phoniness and over whether or not she's going to do that, and her being unlikable, and it's really annoying. I vibe with the study group's annoyance more and more every time that they say anything towards each other.
Yeah.
And Shirley and Abed are just like, you know what? Let's just take them out. Who cares about the alliance? They're being annoying.
Yep.
Let's take them out.
Had about enough.
But of course they don't. And we move on to the next thing. There's another encounter about to happen. I know that this line here is a reference to something that come out.
According to our surrogate community Papa Christmas, it is a reference to the movie The Warriors. Yeah, which again, I've played the video game. not seen the movie.
Come out and play. That's how I tell Steven it's time to record this podcast.
It's true. There's some like banging on my window, which is confusing because I'm on the second floor, but banging on my window, and then I just hear time to play.
I've paid someone in Chicago, to do that for me every week.
Every week, gosh.
So post-ironic Disco Stew shows up, and his inclusion in this episode as a whole is pretty perplexing. I don't really get the point of him, but it's nice that now he gets some retribution after being the butt of people's jokes for the episode so far. He's showing up to take out the
Well, yeah, and Jeff has this coming because not only did he make fun of him when he was just skating through the hallway, but then he caused him to run into a door.
Right, and Stu brings his other roller skating friends, and it makes for yet another striking action set piece where we're circling around the study group with the camera as also the roller skaters are circling around the study group. And they still might have more people on the roller skaters, but that definitely changes their aim and how fast they'll have to react to be able to take any of them out.
Yeah, this scene is really awesome because it's such an action sequence. But the choreography and the way that the roller skate team kind of moves around and gets shot and falls and jumps over things is really awesome.
They take a couple of them out, and then we get a super badass Shirley moment, where she quotes the Bible and says,
"The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want."
And the camera goes around her as she shoots one of them, holding out one direction, then the other from another direction, and then we end up in front of Shirley as she gets shot in the back and taken out. And Yvette's acting of it is a great action moment. And
so good.
It's so clear that the people in this show who are getting to perform this episode were feeling like kids in a playground, getting to dabble in this genre-bending stuff. I'm sure it was so fun.
We get another tense look from Jeff to Britta after he saves her, her life by taking out.
Yeah, Jeff and Britta are still up and at it. As far as we know, Troy and Abed are as well. And it just seems like there keep being more people. They keep showing up.
Well,
and
Troy's out.
Troy's
gone. Troy is dead.
Troy got taken out. I didn't notice. I'm not used to having to give this type of action play-by-play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a little different.
Troy was out first. He was the first to go.
Quite a few of the roller skaters get out unharmed, and I think Abed went to go chase after them, and we're left with Britta and Jeff, who are waiting to see what happens. Abed comes back, says that the last guy almost got him. It seems like they're good. It seems like they've made it through. But Abed has paint on his legs and ankles.
Which, we all have that guy who's the heroic fighter in the movie who, after the long battle, it's like, we did it. And then he looks down and realizes that he's, bleeding.
Doesn't have any legs.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. And here's your moment.
Yeah, Shirley, I'm so sorry, Britta says. And the camera just pans up from Shirley as she's dying on the ground. But it's really just a turn for her to say, you know what, finally this is over and I get to go home and be with my kids. Now that I'm not in the running to win this prize, of course I don't care about this paintball game. It's like, bye, see you later. Can you help me up? Oh, yeah, sure. So she gets up to leave. And I like how just instantly Jeff is looting Abed's body for paintballs. He's got all these tubes full with them, and I'm sure Jeff's running low on ammo, so he just steals them from him. Abed and Shirley walk out the door, and it's like one of the roller skater guys who got killed.
I don't know what this is. This has to be a direct reference to something, but I don't know what it is.
I don't know. It's just like they're having a friend group moment, and then this other dude who also died in the carnage is also walking out with them, and he also looks forlornly over his shoulder while the three of them leave. Britta says, I'm going to win that for you, Shirley. Shirley says, that's nice. And Jeff's like, you, I'm not going to win shit for you.
He said,
Mama needs a new pair of Lexuses.
I'm Die Hard.
And Shirley's like, that's less nice. And then they all come out. Another really funny moment in an episode that isn't stacked with laugh out loud moments is Britta's like, oh, Jeff, you've been hit. And we see red paint on Jeff's shirt. And he's like,
oh, no. Wait. It's blood. I thought it was paint, but I'm just bleeding. Talk about luck.
He's a good
I'm just bleeding. Talk about luck.
Lucky me.
Everything we get from the Dean in this episode is phenomenal. And same with Chang.
Yeah.
Now we're cutting to the scene with the two of them, and the way it's shot is definitely I don't know exactly what movie or reference to liken it to, but I can think of scenes where like the people who have put all this together, it's almost like a Hunger Games or Battle Royale type
it's
thing.
Like, oh,
where now like the game
hitting the
makers
fan.
are like, they're turning on us and we've got to figure out a plan. We've got to have this secret weapon. And the way it's shot and acted does that really well. And because it's the Dean, even though he's being serious, it's really funny. It's 2 a.m. The game's still going on. There's classes in the morning. He's really concerned that the police are going to get called and they're going to think he's a bad dean. Which the police have been called to help things out at this school.
They
so
know
many
he's
times.
a bad dean. Like, that's not... They're well aware.
I don't know. If I went to a school where our dean was willing to spend so much money on parties and paintball games and that kind of thing, I don't think I'd think he's a bad dean. I think he'd think he's the best dean.
I would also be a fan of Dean Pelton if I had him. Now,
Chang is willing to be the secret weapon in this situation because he plays paintball all the time. He's not a student at the school, which could pose a problem, but he tells Dean just to enroll him in a class really quick so he can go suicide bomb this thing out. And that kind of also likens it to the second season paintball. I feel like there's something in that season that like school, like the city college is fighting them and they've like hired like soldiers or something. They've like enrolled like super soldiers.
Yeah.
I forget it.
It's something like
exactly
that.
how it plays out, but it is something like that. So Chang is trying to talk him into enrolling him in a class, and he will be able to take everyone out. This thing can be over, and you don't have to give anyone priority registration. And then the scene where the scene ends with the two of them like maniacally laughing with each other, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah, I mean, the Dean and Chang together are so good. I know last episode we talked about how the Chang was kind of just like sandwiched in to the last one just for that one scene that was
the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, but this one because a lot of times I think they're like, okay, we need some Chang in this episode, and it's really easy to put him in the Spanish class and do something. It's easy to have him kind of walk by, but this is a time where it's like, okay, let's have Chang kind of come in later in the episode, but I think the role he serves is just, it's so good.
Now we cut to really the scene that this has all been leading towards, and I like how it starts out with this really pretty lens flare.
Yeah.
As we're panning into the study room. It's another trope, but it works well for the characters in the moment. Britta is tending to a shirtless Jeff's wounds that he's been taking. He took a couple bullets in the battlefield, and she's helping clean him up, which happens in a lot of movies, and I feel like usually leads to a sexual situation. And immediately, like, the two of them can't help but, like, jokingly talk about the sexual tension between the two of them. You know, Britta's like, oh, man, the wounded soldier stereotype must mean we're about to bang. And Jeff's like, it's a miracle we still have clothes on, when he barely does. And I don't know, watching and dissecting scenes like this make me a little bit uncomfortable, but the show did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah.
And I especially like how the kiss that this is leading towards, I really like how it comes out.
I do too.
It's really true to the characters that they're one-upping each other and being kind of sarcastic about what they're doing, and the way that they like get in each other's face, and they're like, blah, 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 like they're gonna make out, and then they actually do.
Reminds me of our first kiss, Zach. You know. I
don't know. It's really true to the characters, and it's really an honest moment where sometimes like the emotion and the tension, like it just makes something happen. And the way it doesn't feel like a movie TV show kiss. It feels like they kind of stumble into it, even though it's been inevitable for a while. I think it works really well.
Yeah.
And I love that the camera cuts away from it at the perfect moment. They don't linger on them kissing too long. It's like a shocking, like, oh shit, it finally happened, and then boom, we're in commercial.
Yeah, which I am also a fan of, because I think that it would have lost a lot if it had like gone on. Because at that point, it's like, all right, we get it.
What do you think of this kiss? Did it have any heat for you?
A little bit, yeah. But I think that most of that is due to how fantastic it was, like the whole, like, like, okay, now we're not. And it's like, we're there, oh. You know, I think that they did a really good job of building it up, especially throughout this episode. Because, you know, they do bicker and argue, and that kind of playfulness is where it comes from. So I like it. overarchingly, no, but for right now, yes.
Yes, I agree with you. We cut to afterwards, we're panning along the floor and we see all of the clothes that they've stripped off of each other. Britta is getting redressed after this. Jeff's wearing that same pair of underwear that he always seems to be wearing, which I feel like tracks with the whole he's still been living in his car thing. And I don't know, they have some awkward post-coital talk. Jeff is like, I feel great now. I think the group was right. We should have just done that. And Britta picks up a gun and turns it on him. Mm-hmm. And suddenly it becomes this thing of, was that even real? Did it mean anything? Was Britta just doing it to be able to take Jeff out and win the game now that they're so close to the end? And the way that it affects Jeff is interesting.
Yeah.
Jeff keeps calling her gross and saying that it's dirty, and I like the way that Britta says, like, I didn't have sex with you so I could win paintball. I had sex with you, and now I'm going to win paintball.
Yeah.
Jeff gets redressed, and Britta is just waiting and ready for the moment to take him out. They have a brief discussion about like whether or not what they did meant anything, and neither of them are really willing to say that it did, but they're not exactly willing to say that it didn't either.
Yeah.
The relationship line is really thinly drawn here of what exactly this is going to mean for these two characters going forward, whether this is the beginning of something that's been long anticipated or if it was just a relief of tension and now it's gone. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know what happens because we've seen the future of the show. But it'll be fun to watch where the characters go from this moment in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah.
They aren't willing to tell each other what it meant, and they keep arguing over each other and going right back into the bantering that they were doing before. So Britta doesn't get to the point where she can shoot him. Well, she tries to, but she's out of paintballs.
Yeah. Because the ever clever Jeff Winger.
Before they can get any farther with their situation, this is such a beautiful sequence of events where the operatic music begins, the doors swing open, and in comes LT Gray.
This is definitely my favorite scene of the episode, this whole sequence, because, well, one, I love Scarface. As ridiculous as a movie it is, it's really entertaining. And I think Chang just, like, coming in that suit with that gun is just so perfect. The music playing in the background, how, like... in this episode they do a lot with the camera, switching it from normal, like, okay, it's a sitcom, to like, okay, now it's an HD action movie. And this is one of those times where it's framed, like the way the room is laid out is just beautiful. It's great.
You say Scarface, but I'm almost positive that this is the scene that's directly influenced by John Woo films. I think it's like, it definitely reminds of Scarface. I think... I don't want to say something wrong because I don't know his movies well enough, but like
he did The Killer, Hard Boiled, Face Off, Mission Impossible, Broken Arrow.
He is considered a major influence on the action genre, known for his highly chaotic action sequences, stylized imagery, Mexican standoffs, which is what this kind of is, frequent use of slow motion, and allusions to neo-noir and Western cinema.
Well, the Mexican standoff was like what happened in the bathrooms. That's when everybody's pointing at each other.
That's true as well. You're right.
Yeah.
But regardless, Chang has this tiger-striped LT Gray, like, machine paintball gun that he's just absolutely going at it at the room, but not making any of the shots. Britta and Jeff hide behind couches and stuff. Well, Chang's just going absolutely
He's
wild.
Shooting everything.
He's just shooting whatever he can.
Buenos dias, children.
He announces what's going on, and Jeff yells, "You're not a student!" And he holds up his enrollment form. Critical media literacy and politics of gender, biatch. We haven't gotten really enough of Ken Jeong really getting to shine in this season. But in this episode, not only does he get to do something totally out of character for the character, something that we don't see out of this character often, but he does really get to shine and kind of stretch his chops a little bit, I feel.
Really good.
Jeff tries to shoot from behind the couch a couple of times, but it's a pretty wasted effort with their little wimpy in comparison guns that they've been using. Britta tries to talk Jeff into giving her his ammo, basically is saying that she's going to be willing to sacrifice herself to take out Chang and to be taken down in the meantime. Jeff isn't quite sure whether he's going to trust that or not. And they share another kiss. I felt like this one here had a lot more weight to it than the first one did.
I think for Jeff it does, because he's like, oh, she's just kissing me. But I will say, I think also, there's a window after two people sleep together where the kissing is like, okay. But I think that if she had done this like a day later, it would have been totally different,
That's true in real life, but I think that window is different when it comes to TV shows and stuff, because I think, I don't know, it's telling that there might be something there. You're right that it could just be that there's a window, but it seems like it's I might die, like a paintball die, so I want to get a last kiss before.
See, for me, it's
I'm
more
taken
she's
out.
distracting him so she can take his ammo.
Well, yeah, of course, but I don't know. This kiss just has more weight than the first one did. This one was less like I don't know. Whatever.
It was less heat of the moment and more like intentional, like she planned.
Heated moment.
Yeah.
But Britta takes his clip from him and says, "Pretty crazy if I shot you right now, huh?" But she doesn't. She did the right thing. And there's a really great stylized shot of Chang tossing his huge blaster and pulling out those two iconic golden paintball guns. And Britta has her chance to come up and try to sweep the room and to get at him in his second where he's switching over. And this is where we get the two absolute coolest shots of the entire episode, maybe the entire season, maybe the entire series, where they're shooting at each other and we see those slow motion, beautiful shots of a paintball leaving and trailing towards the other person. And then we get the shot in the middle where two paintballs explode on each other.
Pretty freaking
That's just
awesome.
one of those things that it transcends television. It transcends the trope that it's trying to do. It's just a phenomenal shot that belongs in like a history book of cinematography. It looks
it's
so
so
cool.
good.
Probably my favorite cinematic moment of the entire episode. Did we get to the point? Did you say? Because you said you had a favorite funny moment, and then
My
you
favorite
had a
moment is
favorite
this
moment of the
whole
episode.
Chang sequence. So this would be included.
I think I'm with you. There are a lot of set pieces that this episode does so well, and then they build to this biggest set piece that has this blow up, and it happens in the study room. It's very, very, very good.
And I
Very
kind of like
affecting.
that this fight was, Britta and Chang, because it was like a big, climactic moment, but at the end of it, Britta still sacrificed herself, and so it gives this scene being so great also sets up the final scene with Jeff and the Dean being as good as it is.
Very good scene. Jeff stands up and he knows that they've won, that Chang is done for. He's got paint all over him. But what Jeff doesn't know is that there's a good chance that that's not going to matter at all because, of course, Chang has a trick up his sleeve. He says maybe there's no such thing as priority registration, so this is all for nothing anyway. It was never something that the Dean would actually be able to give to someone. So it was doomed from the start. And then Chang reveals that he's got this suicide bomber paint rig set up that has to be against the rules.
Gotta be.
And I would have also really loved to see just a little bit more of how Chang ended up with this thing,
Right.
or if he built it, or what.
Because if he goes paintballing 3 times a week, has he had to use this before? Like, does he, suicide bomb in paintballing?
Yeah. But then we get this iconic shot that we talked about with MJ of Jeff running to mad dash out of the study room, and this long jump as the paint explodes behind him, just covering every inch of the study room with green paint, but Jeff just narrowly escaping. And I love that you can even see the green paint come from between the crack
Sneaks out
in the
just
door.
a little bit.
It shows that I think that this isn't a computer enhanced thing. I think they really exploded some paint, at least onto that wall.
It really looks like it. It looks very real. I'd be surprised if that were computer,
Now we cut to this scene with the Dean that you're talking about that is also very funny, very golden. It's on the top of a list of many potential top moments.
Yeah.
His office is just as decked out in Dalmatian stuff as it's ever been. And I love that Jeff knocks on the door And the dean can tell that this is like a knock with some heat behind it. So he takes a second to adjust himself. And I think the pause that he takes before he speaks is like the perfect length of time for comedic effect. He's like,
Dean! Just one moment.
bursts into the room as soon as he starts saying anything. And Jeff, I pointed this out to Lily when we were watching it just before we started recording. Jeff, I know it's for the Die Hard reference, but Jeff is all of a sudden way dirtier
He's
than
really
he was
dirty and barefoot
30 seconds
and
ago.
like it's a whole thing.
I love Joel's energy in this scene. He said on the commentary that he watched a couple parts of Die Hard over and over and over again to try to get this as right as he could.
Well, and you can tell
and
he
it pays
really
off.
does his best, John McClane.
He's looking crazy. He's looking dirty. He's looking ready to kill whoever made all this happen. And the dean's like, that's a good look for you. He's just trying to push off the inevitable.
He's like scared but a little bit excited.
A little bit turned on. Yeah. Jeff gets this really great end of the action movie speech where like everyone out there shooting each other while you sit here in your ivory tower. And the dean wants to explain, and he tries to explain. He messed up when he promised priority registration. It's a violation of a Student Equality Act. But this isn't, and he holds up that DVD player, which...
What region is that?
It's Region 1. So it would have worked for American DVDs. I think we assumed it would be one of the other regions. It comes with its own remote, so that's pretty cool. And that just makes Jeff lose it anymore, and he slips from Die Hard to John Rambo as he just shooting everything around him like Chang did, and just going crazy, shooting all over the place. The dean ducks behind his desk and misses the wrath, as so it seems, as Jeff just splatters his entire office with paint, and he drops his gun. The dean pokes out from behind, asks him if he got it all out of his system.
Here specifically, Jim Rash looks very buff.
Shot. Oh yeah, he looks great.
Yeah.
That shirt is
It's
hugging
working
him
hard.
in just the right
Yeah.
ways. Here we get the shot that I just feel like they knew they had to do this. As soon as they did paintball, they're like, oh, so paintball crashing Jim Rash's bald head. Jeff is just laughing maniacally, and the dean kind of gives an awkward like, like little smile, like trying to laugh with him and thinking that the worst of it's over. But nope, he's not done. He shoots him point blank right on the head.
And that really is a paintball bursting on his head. But like you said, they must have like turned down the strength in the guns. But that, regardless, it had to sting at least a little bit. So good on Jim Rash for holding true for that one.
The dean's like, fine, what do you want from me? Jeff says, guess. You know what he wants from you. And then we cut to now we're kind of back into the reality of the show.
Everything's back to normal.
It's another day. Everything looks the exact same. They're cleaning up paint a little bit, but they've got the place totally cleaned up. Jeff and Britta are walking to study group just like they did in the beginning of the episode, but things are a little bit different. They're not quite as heated towards each other, like in a like sibling rivalry kind of way, and they're a little bit awkward around each other. I don't know. You can just tell that something's happened, and now they've had time to think about it, and they're not so sure about it anymore. They both start to bring it up, and they both at the same time are like, that didn't happen. We're not going to talk about it. It's over. We never have to talk about it again. It wasn't a mistake, but it happened out of the heat of the moment, and that's it. That's all there is to it. They were relieving tension. Nobody needs to know about it. Don't mention it. Nothing's changed. And then as soon as they walk into the study room, Abed, something's changed.
Abed, who
of course he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew that this was going to happen before they ever knew it was going to happen. And Jeff is kind of putting it off. He's like, oh, Abed, crazy Abed.
Pierce dressed very nicely in a turtleneck here. Nice for you, Pierce. Looking good, buddy.
A nice change from the vests that he usually
goes with. The brown vest.
Everyone kind of feels out the air in the room, tries to see if there's anything to what Abed just said, and Pierce goes with, well, it might be me. I'm sporting a man thong. And Abed's like, maybe. And Jeff is able to turn the situation around where they're not like analyzing what everyone's doing, and he's able to bring up that he won. He got the priority registration, and he is doing the gentlemanly thing and giving it to Shirley, which is nice. It's nice to see Jeff do that. Now, Shirley's going to have to pretend to have gout and start walking around campus with a limp.
Worth it.
To be able to get it. But it was selfless of Jeff to... I don't know. It seemed like this paintball game definitely had a deteriorating effect on Jeff's mental health.
Yeah, it did.
And at the end of it, he's willing to give his reward away to someone who can really use it for good. And everyone's really happy about it. It's a nice moment to end this crazy, hectic, action-filled episode. You would think it'd be really, especially like the Chicken Fingers episode, you could tell how that could end with normalcy.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit more of a stretch to like, the episode starts off normal and it ends normal. And that'd be a hard thing to do, to get it back to where it started after the craziness of this episode.
So much happened.
They do it about as well as they could.
It's Community. They're like, we're fine. Everything's good.
Right.
Now, I will say that I do like how kind of, impressed Britta is with Jeff at this. Like, she's truly surprised, and she gives him a little look that's like, okay.
But they just banged.
Yeah.
They're still, even if they're awkward, and the thoughts and feelings are all still kind of working themselves out. Mm-hmm. And I think they're still leaving it open-ended as we go into the last 2 episodes of the season, that the story isn't quite over yet. And Abed is just, come on, guys, something's different here. You guys don't feel it? And one of my favorite little things, they said that Chevy just did this on his own. He says his man-thong's riding up a little, but as they're all talking about whether something changed, Chevy takes his finger and puts it down on the table, like as if he's like checking the temperature of it, or like checking its pulse or something to see if that's what's different. And Britta and Jeff share a look. Jeff's like, I think we're caught, and Britta's like, kind of gives him a cutesy, flirty look. So the episode ends with those longing-ish looks from Jeff and Britta. What did you take from that?
Yeah, I think that, because I've always been more in the camp that Jeff was way more into Britta than Britta was ever into him, and I still feel that way. But I think here she's at least like in that kind of afterglow of like, oh, he is kind of dreamy. But Jeff's face to me almost looks like more, oh no, they're going to find out, than it is like, oh, I like Britta a lot,
Yeah, regardless of if he likes her or not.
Yeah.
This look that Britta gives him at the end here is a little bit cutesy towards Jeff, though.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the end of this episode. It's a classic, and I still think it's so impressive that they're able to wrap it up in a way that is congruent with the rest of the episodes of Community in that last minute after all the madness from this episode. I love it. Any final thoughts before we talk about the end tag here?
Just really good episode. A lot of really good stuff in it. I think, like you said, it's on the Community Mount Rushmore of like episodes.
Is there anything that comes right to mind that you would include
on that?
Chiseled in stone with it?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, absolutely.
It's tough. Which
Dungeons
Christmas episode?
and Dragons. Maybe the season 2 zombie Halloween episode.
I'd say that's probably the Halloween one.
But maybe not. It's got to be Modern Warfare, Dungeons and Dragons, Remedial Chaos Theory, and
almost what's more iconic? Is it the blankets, the Fort War
there's
one?
There's so many you could go.
Is it the there's a lot.
So there's a call out for you guys, even though you never respond to the questions we ask you, because people write to us, but it's almost we're always like, hey, tell us your favorite cereal.
And they're like,
but tell us what would be on your Community Mount Rushmore. What 4 episodes should be chiseled in stone as the 4 in the history books?
Yeah, if you could only have 4 episodes to preserve of Community, what would they be?
I really like this in tag for one of the it's kind of Troy and Abed. For one of the ones that's not strictly Troy and Abed doing something goofy, it's one of my favorites. Basically it's Troy trying to leave a message for Abed. They're going to meet each other, and he keeps second guessing what he says or how he says it.
Which I totally feel. I hate leaving messages because
Well, I think we're way past the time as a society where that's a thing anymore.
Where anybody leaves a voicemail. Well, because nobody checks their voicemail.
Yeah, and anytime someone calls me that's not my grandma, I don't answer. just text me.
I have not answered an unsaved number in so long. Like, unless I specifically like ordered Uber Eats or something and they're calling me,
Right.
but like,
That's what I was with my grandparents not that long ago, and the phone came on, and they were like, probably a robocall. And then he picks up the phone. Hello. It's like, if you know what it's gonna be when you go to answer it.
that's hilarious.
But yeah, I think this is a little bit a dated end tag now, just because people probably don't use their voicemail like that anymore. I wouldn't even know how to redo my voicemail once I'm done recording it if I wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I normally didn't make it that far. I'm like, okay, that's all I have to say, bye, and then I click.
But yeah, Jeff is in the room. He's annoyed with Troy not being able to commit to something, and so he's like, I'm going to do it. And he leaves kind of a stern, grumpy voicemail for Abed. And then my favorite laugh of this, even though all of Troy's different voices are pretty funny, my favorite laugh is when Jeff is like, did that sound too harsh? And then he does it again. He's like, hey, Abed. Troy will meet you in 10 minutes. Bye. And then he's like, maybe we should leave a text message.
Really good
It's
stuff.
a good laugh to end an episode. Just another normal community touch to end such a off-the-wall episode. And that's where we end things for the week.
Yeah,
It's such a classic episode that we could talk about for hours longer. You know, there's so much to unpack in this one. And in an episode that is such a quintessential, forever standing episode of the show, who is the MVP this week?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see who you went, because I went a little bit different route with this one.
Okay, that's fair. I think this episode is Jeff's episode.
Really?
I absolutely do, because he's kind of the lead of the action movie. He's kind of the, you know, in the beginning, he slept through the beginning part of it, so he's like our audience proxy of what's going on. Obviously, some of the Britta Jeff stuff is a little bit annoying, but I'm not faulting it too much on the character. His Die Hard stuff in the end is great.
Really good.
The way that he goes from wanting nothing to do with it to being just as invested as the rest of them, I think is really good. And even that little joke in the end with the voicemail, I think is hilarious from Jeff. So yeah, I can almost confidently give it to Jeff, even if it's just because of like airtime, like how much of the episode is him.
Yeah.
So, but what about for you? That your reaction made me realize that you didn't go the same
I did
direction.
not go with Jeff. Jeff was probably my number 3 pick, and that's not
Okay.
anything against Jeff.
Yeah.
It's just I think my honorable mention is going to go to Britta this week. I thought Britta also
I would have
did a
given
really
her
good
an
job.
honorable mention.
My MVP this week, Zach,
Okay.
is the one who this could not have happened without. The one who I think, even though they were not in the episode, you know, more than other people, they got enough screen time for me to warrant this week giving my MVP to Dean Pelton.
Okay.
'Cause I think that everything
Okay.
he did was so good. The whole paintball assassin, like,
Okay. He's the
idea
one who set it
originally.
all up, and then he's the one that gets the brunt of it all not working
Yeah.
out the way he wanted it to.
And
Totally.
I love the scene with him and Chang where he's like, we got to do something, you know, like he's panic mode, and I think he takes on the role of the villain in
Yeah.
the episode, even though he's not really a
like
not a bad guy.
A lot of those movies have like the evil organization. He's like
Yeah.
the head of the organization for sure. Yeah,
but he's
I
just trying
respect that.
to have his students be engaged
Absolutely.
and have fun. But so Dean gets it this week for me. It was a tough choice.
Dean Pelton's starting to rank up some MVP points as we reach the end of the season.
Dark horse.
Just a
It's
couple more
crazy.
weeks, and we'll be tallying up all those votes and seeing, or all of those MVPs, and seeing who is the MVP of the season based on what we've said, and then we'll also decide who's the MVP based on what we feel. And I still think it could be a lot of different people's game. I'm not sure.
It really is. It's gonna around and beat Chevy Chase. I'm gonna be so upset because it's gonna be
No,
Pierce.
it's not.
Pierce has like sneakily gotten it.
Now,
a few times
season
with each of
2,
us.
maybe. But season 1, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got for you guys this week. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope we have reminded you of how fun and memorable this episode is. And if you haven't gone back and watched it recently, go do it. Why are you listening to us for? It's way better
Right?
than us.
Yeah.
To look ahead. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, admittedly, we are recording this at maybe not the same day you're hearing it. Surprise, surprise! This is not.
It's not
the live
live
stream.
every time people press
Only
play.
to our gold subscribers. But tomorrow, in most places in the United States, if you're listening, is a very important day for our country because it is voting day. If you are doing in-person voting,
Election
a lot
day.
of places that is your voting day. It is the day of vote, and it's happy.
So make sure to
voteness.
get in those season 1 community bracket tournament votes, because just kidding. Yeah, voting is so important, and if you have a vote to cast, you should cast it. I would lightly recommend that. I think it is a election year where voting blue, no matter who, is fairly important. But regardless of where your beliefs and where your political, I don't know, regardless of where you lie, it's important to vote. And we're all going to be talking about it after it's done. And if you didn't give your vote, you don't have anything to say. You should go vote.
Yeah,
It's
feel
really
like,
important.
Regardless of who you're voting for, it's important to vote because then at least, regardless of the way the electoral college is set up, which is a conversation for our electoral college cast, your vote does have some influence. And if you don't exercise your right to vote, you're essentially silencing yourself. So go vote.
Yes, please vote. Vote with your heart. And next week, when our next episode comes out, the world might be completely different. Regardless of what happens, the world is going to be completely different.
Yes, so write-in ballot. Stephen Baker wins.
It's a big time. Make sure. It makes me think of the voting episode of Community where everyone wrote in South Park, and then South Park won the school election.
Yeah. Pop. That's another one of my favorite episodes.
That is a very good episode.
When do we get to see Magnitude? Because Magnitude might be my favorite.
I don't know. It must be a season 2 thing. I thought he showed up before then.
I did too. I've been waiting. I was like, Magnitude?
To wrap things up for this week, looking ahead, next week we're going to be talking about the penultimate episode of season 1. We're seriously almost done with season 1.
It's crazy.
It seems like we went from the beginning to the end so fast.
Yeah.
Next week we're talking about English as a Second Language, which is an episode that I haven't revisited in a long time, to where I couldn't tell you a lot about it before watching it, other than knowing it's the one where Chang has like a guitar on top of like someone's car. So I'm very excited to dive back into it. Send us in your unanswered trivia questions, your MVPs, your favorite funny moments, all of the thoughts to can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. And Steven, where else can the people engage with us?
Well, funny enough, Zach, they can also find us on Twitter at can'tdisapod. You can find us on Instagram at can'tdisappointpodcast, or on YouTube at You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. We're also, on the Facebook, if you use that, at You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
If you want to get your mom to follow us, Facebook would be a great way to do it.
That'd be a great way.
But that wraps it up as far as this week. It's been fun talking to you guys, and I hope you have made it through the podcast without getting any paint on your clothes.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed the special trivia segment and all the crazy stuff we did.
Thank you to MJ very much for joining us.
And just remember, we're all playing.
From Inside the Dreamatorium, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
Black Lives Matter. Make sure you cast a vote for someone who agrees. We will talk to you next week.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Put up your dukes, let's get down to it.
Hit me with your best shot.
Oh, brother! That is so uninspired!
Hit me with your best shot.